Wow, what a great way to start this off.
All right.
Yeah. Alright, so, my name is Matt. I'll be your host for the Filibuster to 9, and joining with me today is Draxus. How you doing, bud?
Doing fine. Doing fine.
Alright. So, welcome to our premiere pilot episode of our podcast series, Filibuster to the 9. With the return of Vault of Glass returning as recording this next season, we thought it'd be a good idea to take a look back on each raid and see how they hold up today. A retrospective, if you will. We decided to take a look back at each raid and see how well they hold up today. From Vault of Glass back in 2014 to Deepstone Crypt in 2020. 6 years and 12 raids later, we reflect and come to a decision on which raid was objectively the best. This has been, let's go over the personal bias and get our top personal 3 raids over with. Draxus, you can go first on this.
So starting out with my top raid, I got number 1, Scourge of the Past. Number 2, I'd say Wrath of the Machine. And then right at number 3, we got the Deepstone Crypt. I prefer them Fallen raids. And I'm going to go out on a wild limb and say all of your favorites is Crown of Sorrow.
No, it's not.
Oh, really?
My top 3 is probably going to be Crota, Scourge, and King's Fall. I would say those are my top 3. So, Jax, would you explain the point system that we have for this?
Alright, so we had set up a point system where we have 12 different items that each raid will be scored in with up to 3 points in each. Starting out, we have the length, which will be an average 3 or 4. If they got less, they'll be taken off 1 point for every encounter less than 3. And if they have more than 4, they'll be subtracted 1 point for every encounter more than 4. Also, we will be judging the environment and how well the environment reflects the just grandeur of the raid. We also have the entry point with how easy is it to train a new person and get people to be able to play the raid. Next, we have mechanics with how complex and not too overbearing the mechanics are. We have gear with how the armor, this is only the armor, how the armor looks, the colors, how standoutish it is. Like if you'd be able to walk by someone wearing this armor, if you'd be able to tell what it is. We also have our weapons based upon how meta-defining they are. And then hero moments where, one person can pull off the end of the encounter when everyone else is dead and save the run. We also have combat where you get... It's about how well the combat rolls. Replayability for keeping you to come back, getting those weapons, getting those armor, getting those exotics. Up next is the exotic, scoring how good the exotic is, how, just overall how good the exotic is, the legacy of it as well. And we will also be including with the exotics the Adept exotics in the
Age of Triumph.
Age of Triumph, that's what it's called. We also have bugs. 0 is if the bug literally breaks the game. 3 is if the bugs are either good or there aren't any bugs. And then enemies with how unique the enemies are or how well they appear. And then that will total out at a max of 36 points. And we will see how well these things go.
Yeah, so let's start this off in chronological order. So, starting in Destiny, in Vault of Glass, released on September 16th, 2014 with Destiny 1's base game. In this raid, you break into a Vex Vault where you face off against Atheon times Conflux. So, start this off, the length we get about 2, with 5 encounters, it's 1 above par. Could have done better, but honestly that Templar section they could have condensed that into 2 encounters instead. Jackson, would you like to say the environment?
So the environment, we gave it a 1 because it was crawling through murky tunnels, which is honestly more of the Hive feel than the Vex. And if it maintained the majesty of the boss of the Atheon room, it probably would have gotten a 3, keeping the nice, clean, pristine glass look that the raid was named after. Alright, you go ahead with entry point.
Yeah, so for this we give it entry point of 3, because it's a very easy raid to learn, from it being the first one to begin with. The mechanics are easy to learn from, and there isn't really... one thing we should have explained about entry point is also the weapons that you need to go in there. So if you go back over the old Destiny forum post and it's like 365 Gallonhorn to kick, this one, with that Age Triumph, even at 390, you don't need, got to your roles for these weapons, it's very easy to have a new player immediately jump in and learn a raid.
Not to mention that Galahorn now is a quest.
Yeah, not a
Alright.
world job.
So up next we got mechanics. We gave it a 2. The mechanics are pretty basic, but we did have like the grievance of a lot of the mechanics relying on one person to carry the entire team, like the relic holder. And this would honestly cause problems. Many of the runs where just a slight slip up and it's over. So it's a bit too heavy on that one person, and then it gets too stressful and people don't want to run it because they will end up being that relic holder. Alright, you go ahead.
So for the gear, we gave this a 1. Honestly, the armor is lackluster, especially with the original armor. It was just... They weren't really that good. It was like a slight gold/chrome look to it. It wasn't really anything. Compared to the future raids, it looks like a bland legendary armor you'll find laying around. The Age of Triumph ornaments did make it look somewhat okay, but it's not enough to bring that grade back up compared to the original armor.
Alright, I will go next with weapons. So the weapons is probably one of the most famous things about the Vaults of Glass. You got the Fatebringer, the Vision of Confluence, that shotgun. What was that one called?
I don't remember.
I don't know. Anyways, and then you also got Prey the Timepiece, a bunch of very iconic weapons that really shook up the game, and because of that, we gave it a 3 for weapons. I'll go ahead with the next one, the hero moments. We gave it a 1. There are very few chances for a hero moment, because, like I said, that one person dies, it's just over. Though you can maybe get a hero moment on the first phase of Atheon, but that's really just it.
Yeah. So for the combat, we give it a 1 because it's really inconsistent between how much you're fighting. You got more of your opening section has a decent, like a little bit amount of fighting, but then with all your transitional encounters, if you want to call it the jumping sections, there's no fighting at all. It's a lot of dead space, and you're not really doing much. It's honestly it's too much inconsistency when it comes to when you're fighting or not, and that's the whole reason this game is to shoot aliens in space.
Another issue is with the Templar. You start out, a couple goblins coming out, and then it gets to the end. You've got 40 of those harpies and like 20 minotaurs just storming the place, and that's one of the reasons that it's so, not the best. Alright, so I'll go on with replayability and exotics. So replayability, we gave it a 3 because people are always going back. I know people to this day trying to get 3 visions of confluence so they can have one on each character. The shotgun you use for everything because that last round where it increases the damage on the final shot. And I myself still go back and play that to try to get the Vex Mythic class, which I've yet to get, though I have the ornament. So people are still going back to play that raid for the good items you get from it. Now the exotic, we gave it a 3 because it was instrumental in defining the future of Destiny. It was the first raid exotic, and it really shook up the expectation of the game because it really broke the game starting out, but it was also important because it was a elemental primary, which at that point had not existed, which allowed people to really have all 3 elements when stepping into Nightfall for the first time, and really gave you another dynamic to the fight.
Yeah, I'll finish it off with the bugs and enemies. So for the bugs, I give it about 2, because let's be honest, Atheon was not the perfect boss. It had a lot of glitches, especially if you're rocking with old hardware when that thing came out with a PS3 and Xbox 360. There's so many different ways of like bugs when Atheon starts floating. Atheon doesn't teleport you. Atheon just kills you for no reason. But there is some bugs in there that definitely made memorable moments in Destiny, like popping on solar grenades as a warlock with radiance and you're pushing Atheon off the map, or being able to have the Templar being stuck in an infinite damage phase. There's a lot of glitches that are both bad and good, so we kind of balanced that out around 2. For the enemies, we gave it a 3. because not only did it have good placement with the normal enemies by itself, but they also introduced two new enemy types at the time. They introduced the suicide harpies, supplicants, and the fanatics. And those two enemies have a common place in Destiny 2. The supplicants not as much as the fanatics, but they do make a return in Garden Salvation, which was a nice little bonus as well.
Alright, and that wraps us up with 25 points out of 36. At the end, we'll go over the placement of each of these raids. Up next, we have the Crota's End. Released on January 21st, 2015, with Destiny 1's first expansion, The Dark Below. In this raid, you enter the Ascended Realm to vanquish Crota, son of Oryx, and avenge the fire team of Eris Morn.
So I'll start off with the length and environment. So for length, we give it about a 2. They only had really about 2 encounters. Sure, you can make an argument for with like the thrall row or the thrall hallway or the first encounter, but that really wasn't really anything. Your main encounters was the bridge encounter, as we call it, or when you cross the bridge, or and then you have the Crota fight. So about 2 main encounters. It's sadly 1 below par, so we have to dock that down to 2 out of 3. Environment-wise, we gave this thing a 3. Starting off, when you're in the Hellmouth, it's just you're familiar with the moon and you're familiar with this area. But when you go down to the Ascendant Realm, you have the maze. Not really much of a maze, but the Lantern Room. It's very iconic. It's everyone knows that final part, especially when you're running towards the light, just so you can escape all the endless storms of thralls, knights, ogres, and witches that are pain to deal with. But when you finally get out, you have the Oversoul staring you down the whole entire time. As at the time, we didn't know what that was, so it added a lot of mystery to this brand new, pretty much dimension that we'd never even really heard of or even been to. So that's why we gave it a 3.
Alright, so for entry point, we gave it a 3 because, honestly, through this one raid, you don't actually need any DPS weapons. Sure, a good rocket to take down Crota's shield there at the end, but it's all about the sword and the sword mechanic, and so you don't really need a heavy, weapon. However, it is also easy to teach mechanic-wise, because then you have that one person running the sword that shows all the other new people that they'd be carrying how to do this, and it's really a very simplistic but well thought out mechanic. Alright, next we have mechanics. It is a bit too easy because it's holding plates or hitting things with swords, but it's consistent, so we gave it a 2 for mechanics and a 3 for entry point.
Weapons, the gear, we gave it a 3, because with the gear, not only were we counting the with the armor, the original armor set looks phenomenal. It's very iconic, especially with the Warlock set. And then when Age of Triumph came out, when they added the ornaments to it, I feel like out of all the raids that they redid, Crota got the best treatment with it.
I gotta agree with you there.
Yeah, especially Warlock. I was a Warlock main D1. I'm a bit biased. But when you look at the armor set, it took what it was already what made unique and profound. I'm going to use Warlock as an example because that's the only one I actually got it on. But the Warlock helmet, how it had the 2 horns going back, they expanded it and a nice little high design on the front. Gave them little, their fingertips added a little glow to it. It just added little details that made it unique and eccentric, but it wasn't over the top compared to armor sets nowadays in D2. Looking at you, Majestic Armor. Weapons, we gave it a 2. For the half the weapons are really good. It had good art style, but there's some where they're iconic. You're looking at the Word of Crota, Hunger Crota, Black Hammer. That was meta defining when it first came out. Everyone ran the same with that gun. But then you also have more weapons where it's just kind of slightly forgettable.
Abyss Defiant for one, Fang of Ur-Ute.
Yeah, Fang of Ur-Ute. Then you got more of the shotgun too. The shotgun was fine, but it just wasn't. It's just like, oh yeah, this thing exists. I forgot about that. It wasn't anything memorable with those weapons.
Alright, and next we got Hero Moment. So we gave it a 1 for Hero Moment because there's so many of them that it's actually kind of bad for the raid. Like, it's nice to have them, but too many of them just saturates the market a bit too much, because it can be done solo. We all know this. It is a solid, time-tested fact. Crota can be soloed, the whole raid. But honestly, that kind of makes the new people feel a bit underused or underappreciated when it comes to that, because you got them sitting around and you got those veterans just sword flying across that bridge. So it's the hero moments kind of hurt the raid a bit there. But then we gave it a 3 for combat because it was well placed enemies and well planned encounters. Because you got those hive knights up there shooting down at you. You kill those, you got the wizards. Or the hive, just the thrall, endless thrall just coming at you in all directions constantly. And none of the encounters actually felt empty. The bridge was a little lacking, but it was still not empty, because I know plenty of people running out of ammo standing on those Annihilator totems. So it was well put together combat.
Yeah, not even to mention with the Age of Triumph, they redid that encounter by at the very end. Now every single person has a sword, and you're just going mayhem on it. That part,
that's got to be.
Like
it's like
that part gets forgotten sometimes.
That is true, because I did forget about that, but it is a masterpiece.
Yeah.
All right, you take it from here.
All right, so replayability, we gave it a 3. Not only did it have amazing loot in terms of like when D1 first came out with the Black Hammer, the rocket launcher, the hand cannon, but when Age of Triumph came out, you got to do the more Necrochasm again. You do it for the hard modes, you get the shaders and whatnot, but the part that Drax mentioned earlier in terms of the hero moments, you were able to solo it. And sure, it's about the same length of a dungeon in D2, but it still is difficult to solo it. It can easily be done, but it's just more the execution-wise, it's still a feat of accomplishment. And it was just a lot of memorable moments of taking down the sword, and since only one person is allowed to use a sword in the Crota encounter, it allows people to pretty much take turns to get a new experience for the raid, because there's definitely a big difference from standing in the back with a rocket launcher versus getting up close with this god with the sword taking him down face to face. In terms of exotics, we gave it a 1. Sure, Necrochasm it existed. It was an okay weapon. It was another one of the exotic elemental ones with having arc. It was an okay above average auto rifle. But then when you look at more of the Adept Weapons, really the only Adept weapon that really anyone used that I've seen was maybe the Word of Crota, the hand cannon, if I'm believing in that name right. But
I liked that one.
Mm-hmm. But then you get in other instances where it's like Fang of Yiryu, Abyss Defiant, the other ones, it's just it's not worth spending an exotic on it for an element. You can easily go better with it. Run like Vision of Confluence, Chaos Dogma, Genesis Chain, things like that.
Alright, up next we had bugs. We gave it a 2 because a lot of them were good. They helped you out. However, there was way too many, and it's widely known that Crota's End was buggy to beyond repair, honestly. And then for enemies, we had 3 for enemies because they were all in the right spots, and it maintained a consistent, majestic, and kind of thriller attitude throughout the whole raid. Alright. You get next?
Yeah, so for the enemies, we give them a 3.
No, I already did that.
Oh, well, I feel bad. Okay, sorry. Next raid. After slaying Crota in his extended realm, we face against his father Oryx in King's Fall, a grand finale to conclude the riveting expansion, The Taken King, released on September 15, 2015. To start this off with the length, we gave it a 1. The thing had 5 encounters, and it wasn't like Crota where it's like, this one technically counts as an encounter. No, this one was just long, annoying encounter. You had the opening section, you had totems, War Priest, Golgoroth. I mean, the opening section doesn't really count, but Golgoroth, Sisters, Oryx, and each of those counters took a long time, especially if you had issues with not understanding mechanics, but we'll get to that later. When it turned to environment, we give it a 3. Let's be honest, the inside of the Dreadnought was beautiful, especially when you got to more of Like you got the Golgoroth lair, and it looks like a breeding ground for this ogre, and it's a little bit disturbing what you're looking at. And then the War Priest had the totems that are up top that are overlooming, and they had the symbol of I believe it's Oryx's face on there. I'm not really too sure. When you get to the sisters in Oryx's room, at the very end, you're in this giant, almost like throne room, looking out, and the only thing you see is Saturn in the distance. And for the Oryx encounter, you saw the Oryx and how he wasn't really a boss. He was more of the set of the environment, and he was just there looming over, showing you that you're fighting against a god, and it really definitely added to the story element while still being amazing aesthetic.
Alright, up next we have Entry Point. I can say from experience, because I really got into that well after Rise of Iron came out, my first run, it took a whole weekend. 4 to 5 hours each encounter, but it was hard mode on my first try, and I was not the problem, but it is hard to teach someone a lot of these raids. I mean, it can be taught, but then it's so repetitive. Like Oryx, for the best damage, you have to do that one cycle 4 times, and if one thing goes wrong, it's over. And like it really is a bit of a grindy
endurance test.
It's an endurance test. It's long. Golgoroth, you got to run from those orbs, and if he dies, he really just stomps. You're right under him. You're just dead. Or when the person explodes in the wild, if they're not paying attention, it's just which leads on to our next point, mechanics. We also gave it a 1 because it is overbearing and it is too heavy on mechanics. Like, one person dies, it's over. All right, you go.
Yeah, so for this, we'll go in the gear and the weapons. The armor was amazing. It had some beautiful armor with especially the Warlock Helmet, where you look like you just have a dome for a head.
With the right shader, you got the light bulb.
Yeah, he does a walking around LED light. It's amazing armor and amazing design of like the aesthetic, especially with like the Titan helmet was another really good one. It was almost on the same level of the Darkblade helm from that strike. But overall, it was a phenomenal armor. It wasn't anything to really scoff at, like future raids. But in terms of weapons, we did give it a 1. There wasn't really any good weapons out there. You got maybe 2, 3 at the most. The Spina Meringue, which I believe was the Pulse, that one was really good. And Crucible. Scout was not bad, and the Heavy Machine Gun is actually something to actually look out for. Especially for me, I love that thing. But let's be honest, someone's still reloading that hand cannon. It's a bit ridiculous. And the main raid perk for it, like all the Crota ones had the Hive bonuses, Wrath had Fallen bonuses, Vex, the Vault Glass had the extra Oracle damage, and Vex. King's Fall, auto-loading holster. You don't need that on a primary kinetic. No, you could have used something better. They could have done the perks much better than just Cocoon.
Alright, up next we have our hero moments. We gave it a 0 because there are actually like no hero moments in this entire raid. One person dies, it's over. It's just excessive, honestly. But then we gave it a 2 for combat because it is consistent, but a lot of the times you got enemies coming from all directions. And Bungie themselves had said that they had vowed not to do that until the Well of Radiance came out. But it really felt like it was forced upon you, and you just were melted in seconds, especially in Oryx, the Sisters. Not so much really on Golgoroth and War Priest, but you were being fired upon on almost all sides, and it was the bane of new players.
Yeah, so for the replayability and exotics, replayability, give it a 1. Let's be honest, even for the average raid team of everyone knowing what they're doing, that thing takes you about an hour and like an hour and a half sometimes. My fastest
that's a flawless hour and a half.
Yeah, my highest was 2 hours, and I know exactly what I'm doing that raid. but there's just a lot of issues where they're really there's no reason to go back. You go back, maybe you maybe do it twice to get Touch of Malice, but after that, it's just like, other than the powerfuls at the time, there's nothing to do. But now, since Destiny 1's over, it's been over for what, 4 years now. The only thing you go back there is for is maybe do emblems, which weren't really that good, but mostly for the armor. Exotics wise, we get this at a 0 because the Adept Weapons, the primary is already like pretty much sucked to begin with, so there was no point like going back for it. Sure, now you get the elemental pulse rifle or scout, but the rest of the hand cannon sucked. We're not going to talk about that thing. And then the actually great exotic Touch of Malice, it was phenomenal in 2 encounters. When was the last time you took Touch of Malice out, non-ironically, in anything from raids to strikes to Crucible?
I don't even use Touch of Malice in the raid.
Yeah, no, I find better weapons to use.
Sleeper.
Pretty much. The gun was not worth, like, for the raid exotic, it's not that good.
And then that auto rifle had extremely high stability stat, but it could not shoot straight. The auto rifle with like almost max stability, if you shoot at a wall, you're going to be aiming at the moon by the time you're empty that mag. It was that bad. Alright, up next we have bugs. So there weren't too many bugs, but they were heavily game breaking. Like we had the issue when I went back and played this last weekend. In the totems encounter, sometimes the buff would have lag and not transfer, and then the whole thing's just over. Or there's a lot of them, and they really just kill your entire team all at once. And it's not fun when it happens, especially with how much of an endurance race it is, and it really kills your spirits when you're doing it. And then for enemies, we put a 3 because honestly the design, like those Light Eater ogres with a different... the Light Eater knights with a different head and the different coloration on those ogres, not to mention the War Priest looked amazing and massive, stoic, strong, and then Golgoroth, you had the giant spider legs on his back that you had to shoot. Yeah. And Oryx's complete majesty in his size, and the Death Singer's unique body styles. It was a really well-designed enemies.
Not to forget, you also had the new type of acolytes. I think they're like accolades or whatever it's called.
The Adepts, I think they're called.
The Adepts. Something like that. But actually a cool design where you actually need to plan out who you're killing, or they're just mindlessly firing with like an LMG. You gotta make sure
kill them first, all the acolytes just ogre eye you, and it's hilarious. Heck, sometimes,
especially when you're doing Golgoroth.
Sometimes if someone pissed you off on the other side of the room, you kill their adepts and mow them down.
Yeah.
Alright, as a concluding chapter of the comparatively short expansion Rise of Iron, we challenge Axis Prime as he attempts to ascend to godhood in Wrath of the Machine. So with this one, the length of this raid, we gave it a 3 because it is 4 encounters right on par. Environment, we also gave 3 because you go from a broken wreck of a cosmodrome, cuts everywhere, metal warped, and this giant, kind of like a hollowed out servitor behind where you fight Vosik the first time, and you get those charges up, you hit him with it, break his shield, wipe him out, and then you go from a destroyed wall, it really starts in a ruined city, and it really shows what the Fallen are living in. And then you get past that siege engine, get through the wall, and you enter the facility, and it is clean-cut corners, nice labs, and you get into that final room, you drop down this pit, and it's pitch black, you step forward, lights start to flicker on, and right there, molded across that entire back wall with Siva, you have Axis Prime in his glory. So that one, it was refined, slick, perfected for the look of Siva, with amazing storytelling.
Yeah. Which, there's more about the Fallen I want to get to, how they think they're the best enemy type, but for the entry point, this thing was at 3. It's a very easy to learn mechanics, and they build up over time, so it's not just, you learn how the basic mechanics of how the ball works with Vosok, and then it builds on it more into the second encounter, and then especially when you get to the almost said Atrax, axis, there's like the ball keeps coming back, but they keep building a little bit more onto it, where it's more of a here's a study guide, now here's a test, and you learn through it. It's also very easy to carry someone through. I mean, people have been able to, if I'm not mistaken, one man axis, and most of the different encounters is more of just the main thing you need to learn is go to this room when we tell you to. It's nothing really too crazy about it. But you also don't really need certain weapons. There isn't really any weapon that you need particularly. I mean, you could use Dart Drinker and Axis, but there's also plenty of other options other than Dart Drinker to use. So I did a little bit backwards with mechanics. Like I said, each of the mechanics in part 1 explains the basics of it, and then part 2 of each boss fight will expand upon it, and they build up. Like they keep pushing it more and more in there, but it's not so much that it's just like mind blowing with some like King's Fall. Also, you have in orbs, which let's be honest, throwing bombs at bosses is awesome.
So up next we have gear. Going back, looking at the armor, it really isn't that good of a looking gear compared to, say, King's Fall, Crota's, and Garden of Salvation, Deep Stone Crypt. It's really kind of a bland. Like one of them, it looks like you're just wearing a dress with some little squares on the front for the Warlock. I guess the Titan had better.
Hot Topic, and you got a new dress.
The Titan looks better, but it's still not like the Titan feel. You still look a little scrawny while wearing it. So it's not that flashy as it could have been. The Ghost Shell and the Artifact that also dropped was a very rare thing, and honestly, in that last bit of a power grind to get to that max level, it's not really that good to have a lacking piece that you need so bad. Like that was the big issue with Destiny 1. The Ghost Shell and the Artifact were the rarest things, especially Ghost Shell. But then the weapons were really good. That Scout Rifle with triple tap and triple double, giving you 2 rounds for every 3 shots. When I ran out of ammo for, my Galahorn, my Sleeper, I switched to that, and I just kept going. Ex Machina, similar business. You shoot all 3 shots, reload fast, and get more shots. It was really well put together weapons, and you could use them I'd use them in everything. The shotgun, I don't remember there was a shotgun. It wasn't as good as the Vault of Glass one. The Genesis chain, it was an alright auto rifle. Destiny 1 wasn't really about the auto rifles, but for an auto rifle, it was well done. Same with the Pulse rifle. Just consistency is key, except Fever and Remedy, that can go die in a pit. That's up to you now.
So, yeah. Another thing about the weapons that it was kind of a little minor detail that I really like about it. The weapons, when you get them, because back in D1, you didn't have all the perks unlocked. You had to use the weapons and test them out beforehand, or let's be honest, you put on a crap ton of motes of light and just upgrade it from there. But as you upgraded it, when you finally hit the last and final upgrade, the aesthetic of the weapon changes. It still stays the same color, but you'll see the chords that have the Siva running through it, and just add a little bit more design to it. Or instead of being just a normal gun, now it's perfected, the idea of Siva.
I like that they did that. They should honestly bring that back.
Yeah, right. It has the weapons have a little bit, just the small things that really matter. So for the hero moments, almost every single encounter can be done either low man or solo. There's even parts where you don't even need to have moments where if one person dies, you're pretty much screwed. There's a story that we have. Me and Drax has read all these raids recently, and we did Wrath of the Machine, and we got to Atrax Part 1. A couple of our buddies left, and we were running through. Let's see what we can do. We had 3 people in that raid. I was dead.
Yeah, there's just 2 of us right there at the end. And me and this pro, we beat the phase 1 with just us 2 while we were having more people join. And then another time, while Banana was busy doing homework or something, I hopped in. I was doing it. We 5-manned the whole raid just for fun to see if we could do it. And it really was a pretty simple thing to do. And It's really fun.
And though you probably come up with the argument that the fact that we gave Crota a hero moment of like what 0 or 1 because it can easily
One.
be done solo. Yeah,
Actually, it was
1.
2. I believe it was a 2.
Yeah, but still, with this one, it allows you to do is that
Oh yeah, it was 1.
yeah, you can still you can do it low man or solo, but it's not so easy. The fact that
It's a
people
team
really,
game. This one
yeah,
was a team game.
yeah, you can still have to work with a team on this. I mean, look at people like Glad who made like their beginning just by just soloing Crota. Like that's sad. That was supposed to be a raid. And then with combat, we put it at 3 because no matter what you're doing, each encounters, it looks like you're breaking in somewhere, and they'll fall and reacting and going, oh crap, we need to protect what we have, and it constantly, each of the different phases, even the combat with the bosses have a little bit of a storytelling to it. So the first encounter, when you fight Vostok for the first time, you're fighting him, and like you don't even have to kill him. He runs away and goes back to he's back to his little hiding hole. You continuously chase after him, but you're still fighting a little bit of ads here and there. But then you back him up to your corner and you kill him. You go over to the siege engine. It just the combat there with the way how the counters are laid out with all the ads, especially
the Fallen up there, they realize you're trying to take it over, so they send that captain up there to try to say, "Oh crap, we shouldn't have put this against them. It's theirs now. Let's stop this thing." And then you go back there and you just wipe that one captain out.
yeah, and even within the heroic version in Siege Engine, where you have to fight the tanks, they send you like walker tanks to take out, and it's not enough to stop us. We're just
Then they
that
put
good.
more tanks and raids.
Oh my god, yes. But another thing to do is the siege engine, the first part, when you're breaking down the turrets and everything. Holy crap, there's a crap ton of ads, but even though it's so much, it's not overwhelming. It's not like something like King's Fall where you're constantly getting berated and other raids where it's not enough. So this one gets a perfect balance of it, and I love it.
Up next, we got replayability with so many different roles in the raid and different things to do. It's honestly great to go back to play, like switching between cannon and orb thrower, or being one of the people who carry the parts of the machine. It's also really fun because you also go back for the weapons and the armor. On the armor, not so much, but a lot of the weapons. And you also have to go back and play it multiple times to get the exotic. So that raid just keeps you coming back, and it's honestly that good of a raid that even today, a lot of people still go back to play that one raid. After that, we got the exotic. So the Adept, we'll start with the Adept Weapons. The Adept Weapons were really good. You got Genesis Chain that shoots slower but harder with a Firefly. Once again, triple-double on that Chaos Dogma. That Pulse Rifle that does more damage after, 3 bursts? If you hit 3 bursts, the 4th does more. Except Fever and Remedy, screw that gun. But the weapons were really good, but then that brings us to the king of the weapons, the Outbreak Prime and its historical quest, where you got all these streamers working together to crack this code, and they did it, and they got the gun, and it could melt all 6 people. I think I just got kicked to the orbit. Alright, we'll just return. Doesn't really matter. But you got the Outbreak Prime, such a revolutionary weapon, and it came back quite well into Destiny 2. Many times it would be used to melt bosses, and it was that good of a thing.
And not only with like you talked about the quest, how good it was, it also impacted the community as well, because it's one of Bungie's favorite things, having community event puzzles, and this one was definitely a really big one with the whole ARG and the 4th monitor, which everyone knows the struggle with the 4th monitor. But like
it was the 3rd time they had done this, and people just loved seeing it. Like, we had the Black Spindle, the No Time to Explain. It was that big of a thing back then. It's something they need to do more. They did it, year 1, year 2 with the Black Whisper of the Worm and the Outbreak Perfected, but they need to do it more.
Yeah.
Like, having an exotic on the season pass, an exotic on one exotic quest, and then one free-to-play exotic a season.
Yeah.
It's kind of sad Like,
And
we
another
miss
thing,
those good
though,
old days.
yeah, with the Outbreak Prime, not perfected, but the Prime, it also changes the community wise, and not even just like the literally the names and the faces of the community. I mean, look at the content creator Dado. His whole entire clan changed their name to Math Class because they were working with it more than anyone else, and they're first people to get it. And it involves, well, the math part of it, and I thought that was a little bit funny, the fact that their clan is literally named after this one event. So going into more of the bugs and enemies, the bugs for it, if I might be mistaken, but I don't remember any really bugs that were game breaking or detrimental or just literally just a negative attack against the player. I mean, you had a couple bugs here and there where you can keep A-tracks in the same spot, or
Honestly,
be
that
able
was a
to
bit
jump
more
on.
of a mechanic than a bug, though.
Yeah, you also can have you can jump onto the war machine before it starts. That was a cool thing about it, but
Yeah, you
it
got those
wasn't
people
really.
with a stolen will breaking those turrets really quick. But
Oh yeah.
it's not something bad. It gives a
If
person
anything, they're.
purpose in that one mechanic, and it
Mhm.
was quite well.
Yeah, the enemies, we would have given this a 3, but we give it a 2. It was almost perfect. All the different enemies are there, like well surrounded. Like we said, you're always in combat. There's good storytelling behind it. They even have turrets in certain sections, which I really like. I think it's mostly on the heroic version though. But the one thing that we have an issue with is Splicer Vandals. I swear to God, they don't have a hitbox there for their headshot. It's almost non-existent.
However,
But
the saving grace for those Splicer Vandals was the fact we got Randall the Perfected.
woo,
Oh
Randall.
yeah. Back in the flesh, tanky as all get out.
Yep, I mean you got the whole thing of Rise of Iron storyline was there. I mean they revived Septic's Prime, another very iconic fallen boss,
I want to
and
see
sure,
Randall the Vandal as a final raid boss.
oh my God, yes, they should have
Oh
revived
yes.
Randall Septanix.
Just give him a shield so you have to fist fight him, and he's extremely. You don't use weapons. You fist fight him, and he's extremely tanky. He's not gonna one shot or stomp. He's gonna punch you like a vandal,
Yeah.
and you just go out at him and just beat him up.
Oh my God, we have a JoJo Bizarre Adventure as a raid boss. My God, but yeah, like it's just a little like Randall wasn't even a
It,
main
it's
boss.
the
It's more
little
the
thing
community
that
thing.
counts.
Yeah, Bungie loves us, and they gave us that to
Back in the
little
day.
pick on. Yeah. So now with Destiny 1's ending, with the Age of Triumph and everything, they went back to Destiny 2. This brand new game that it was really well received at first, but following the tragic end of Dominus Gaul, we received an invitation to rise to the challenge of the fallen Emperor Callus aboard the Leviathan in Destiny 2's first of many raids. Leviathan released on September 13, 2017. Jackson, would you like to start us off?
So it had 4 encounters, perfectly on par. You had the 3 starting, and then the boss. We didn't really count Castellum because it's most raids
You
it
can
would be
skip it.
considered a jumping puzzle. And then you got Underbelly, and then and the secrets, like people finding out the first time they step on these plates in the baths and it opens up the underbelly, or they hit these switches and it opens up. It was really unique, and then you got that one guy that knows it and doesn't tell anyone they're at the next encounter, and the one person who looks up the underbelly map to guide everyone. It
Wow,
was.
Jax is pointing fingers.
Oh, I was the one who was already there.
No, so was I.
It was so much fun. I miss going through like those tunnels or the turrets that would start shooting when they see
Yeah.
you.
Because
But
they have exotic chests in there.
But that
the
leads
game never
right
tells you about.
into our environments. The environment
Oh my
was
God.
just as well. Like the gardens, it was nice looking trees with a nice murky mist going through the bottom with the wolves or the dogs. And then you got the gauntlet, where I think this was the first time we had a full 360 raid encounter that actually
Yeah, most of it's on
implemented
a flat
an
plane.
entire outside that we would run through. And I love doing Gauntlet because I was always that runner. People else,
Yeah.
they shoot the things, I run. Top Tree Dawnblade didn't really help, but as a
well.
mobility warlock back in the day, that was my go-to. And
Yeah, I
then
used to play Hunter for that.
oh yeah, and then Baz with the murky water around you. You step in it, you die. Not instantly, of course. And then you get to that final room, you Nova Bomb, your rocket launcher, everything 1K onto those hanging what were they, lamps?
Lanterns,
And then
whatever
the
they're called.
boss room. Oh,
Chaos
the
room.
boss room. You get in there, gold everywhere, hills and hills of gold. Cal is sitting there, casually drinking like us. You shoot that, and then he stands up, and he is big. Boy, is he big. And then you fight him for a bit, and you get teleported to the void room. That was really showed the strength of Callus, and it was. I think a lot of people actually enjoyed that raid. It was considered a bit of a joke because Callus could be killed by anything. Rat King, looking at you, but oh, I killed Riven with Rat King, but
oh my god, that was so much fun.
It was something to behold. It's unfortunate the new people can't go back because I think that would be the perfect first raid for any player, except unlike Last Wish, which I had, painful.
I had King's Fall for my first raid. It was also horrible.
But Leviathan was each encounter was different, but it really helped the raid itself to have something different. And it was such well received, I believe. All right.
Not only with like more of the environment, I'll make it quick, but like the aesthetic of it. When you're in like the Castellum and all the different raid encounters, it's like the only thing you see is this beautiful luxuriness of the gold and white and purple, like
plants,
just royalty.
the gardens.
Yeah. But then when you go towards more of the underbelly and you see what's really hiding underneath, you see more of like a symbolic of like Callus's and his character. I mean, yeah, sure, he was pretty much Julius Caesar, where he had everything and it was all taken away from him. But when you look at it, like in the underbelly, you see the fact that he was portrayed by his friends, his allies, his daughters. We learn as well, and even gets more of his dealings with the darkness and the fact that he's seen what we were fighting against, and there's more hidden behind the mask that he wears.
Also, it's really something you can see in real life. Like a couple years ago, we went on a cruise. Not me and Banana, but me and my family. We went on a cruise, and sometimes, every once in a while, you'll see a crew quarter door, like something they would go through for service. They'd go through that so they could avoid the customers while on the ship. But they open that door, and it goes from a nice-looking hallway to a blue, cold steel hallway for these maintenance workers to get around without having to go through the crowd of people. So it's really something you can see in real life. All right.
So going into more of the mechanics and gear, the entry point. Entry point, this is a 3. Like we said, it's easy to learn. Beautiful raid, but the different types of encounters, it allows you to learn different mechanics. Sure, the mechanics don't really transfer all that well, but we'll get to that later. But each of the different encounters, it give you a new idea how raids work. I mean, you got, I remember the opening encounters, but like you got the Castellum, and that one, it shows you just like, I like to call it lockdown, where you're just holding a position and you're just holding your ground, almost like a Twilight Gap. Yeah, it's really cool. But even like an easy encounter like that, there's still a little bit of things there with the bubble scions, as I call them. I don't know the correct name of it, but you need to take them down for you to take down shields of people trying to steal your flag. It's a really nice encounter. But when you go to just more of like stuff like dogs, it teaches you more the sneak mechanic of more of a
like the Gorgon's Labyrinth from Vaulted Glass all over again.
Yeah.
And you got that one pro, and then that one guy who lags behind, and it just gets everyone killed.
And it's like, come on, man, you got this.
And the nostalgia.
Yeah, you got Gauntlet, which allows you to actually have more frantic running. Like, running, I mean, as much as Destiny is a lot about mobility, not a lot of mechanics are about mobility. It's more just stand your ground and work with a new item, but it's never really about, like, crap, I need to get to this location as soon as possible. Like Atrax kind of did that in Deepstone, but we'll get there when we get there.
And then Wrath kind of had that with Axis. If you had to you had to throw 2 balls or 2 cannons.
That too, or Siege Engine, but like still. And then you don't need any weapon, like we said. Callus could have been killed with anything.
You could sneeze and you'd die. I mean, Rat King's overpowered, and everyone knows this.
Yeah, it's the forgotten unsung hero, but
Suros
still,
regime.
Oh my god, yeah. And kill him with that. We killed him with basic
Six
legendaries.
divinities.
Yeah, we killed them with blues one time. It was awesome, but still, like like I said, you don't need anything. And in certain encounters, like maybe if you're doing the void room, you want like an auto rifle. But let's be honest, who has not gotten the Vladican at this point? That's just so common. Like mechanics, like we give it a 2. Like
You
I
already said that. We already went over mechanics.
wow,
Yeah,
cool.
you already done that. All right, my turn. Back up. My turn. Back in your corner. Also, you're facing the wrong way. So we went to gear. It was a 2. Like, the armor was okay. It was unique. Definitely different. Emphasis on different. Warlock armor sucked. Which is a pity, because I was a Warlock main back then. I'm more of a Titan now. Alright, but we had... That's a perfect spot for you, Banana. Calluses selected. The one shader
in the game.
used to this day
Best
by
shader.
everybody. It is white, gold,
We use it.
little bit of purple. My Titan, decked out. Best shader. And then
My Hunter runs with
weapons.
that.
Weapons was 2. It was good for the time, but it was double primaries back then. And
Yeah.
so it really hurt that, because to this day, there's 1 or 2 of those weapons. They're all right, but
Yeah.
honestly, the best weapon I'd say was It Stared Back when the swords got their buff, because then you'd kill Riven with that. I think swords are still the meta for Riven, but it really is. It's 2 for both of those. You're not there really for the weapons or the exotics. You're there for the experience and the shader.
And yeah, and mostly shader, only shader. The weapons, like I said, there's some that were really iconic, but there are some really good ones. I mean, you got more of like Midnight Cube and Inaugural Dress. Those were like really phenomenal weapons, but then you got more of like Mob Justice
Wait, that's a thing?
and yeah, Mob Justice. It was a submachine gun.
I think there was a
It
sniper.
sucked.
I don't
Yeah,
remember
it was
exactly.
Alone of a God. It had snapshot, a triple tap, but that was in heavy slot. You didn't want that. You never use a sniper for heavy. The only sniper you used was Whisper the Worm, but that wasn't released at that point. Yeah, but like the weapons were like they had some really good ones. Sins of the Past is also a very phenomenal rocket launcher. The only thing at the time that came close to it, non-exotics, was maybe Curtain Call, but it still held up.
When we're going over these, we're going at them from the end of their lifetime.
Yeah, now it's
So,
now we're looking at it.
We're looking at it. It's just not as good as it was.
Yeah, and besides, we're on sunsetted too, so we can't really test them out now.
We can, but it won't be good.
Yeah. So going into more of the hero moments in the combat, we gave hero moment 0. I'm sorry if someone died. I mean, now they increased the time limit to a minute and a half. When that raid first came out, you had 30 seconds to revive him, or you're done. And those mechanics took a little bit longer than 30 seconds. It wasn't enough to complete the raid. Honestly, it could have done if the light fading was a cool idea, but they could have. I wouldn't have been happy if they just dropped it entirely. But 4 years later, and they still have it. Combat, we gave it a 3. No matter what you're doing, you're always fighting something. Or, like especially in the opening section, when you load in, you have all those Centurions, Legionaries, and Colossi, whatever. They don't even attack you, but they're standing there. You can see that they're all yellow bars, and they can easily just destroy
And then
you.
get through that door first, throw a grenade backwards, and kill all your friends. Yeah, masterpiece.
I
That was
hate you,
great.
Texas.
That was
I
all
hate
me.
you. I was a slow. I was slow low times. But yeah, like you can even just skip the whole entire counter. But and like we said, you can skip a Castellum. But when you're in the underbelly, you're still fighting things. You have to go to those turret rooms, and I mean, unless you kill all the turrets, you gotta fight more stuff down there. And it's just a good mixture of like a little bit of storytelling. Like you're breaking into the ship, and sure, Callus wants you to be there, but his like troops don't really know that all that much. They're just more of a intruder, take him out. Especially because you're a guardian, and well, the Red Legion just got curve stomped by us. Yeah,
Up next, we have replayability. So we gave it a 3, because each week the order changed of the encounters. Sure, it wasn't that big of a thing, but people would still go back for the experience. The weapons, sort of, around the end of its life, but really the experience is the big thing there. Like, I would go back all the time just for fun. See how fast you can clear it, if you can get it faster every time. And because it wasn't that small of a raid, you wanted to see if you could beat it faster. Like, I think at a 33-minute run, it was really fun. And then next we had the exotic. So the exotic, we gave it a 0. Legend of Acreus still has potential. However, there is, I would say, no encounter in anything that would benefit that poor gun. I've been working on that catalyst since I got it back in a Grandmaster Nightfall a week or two ago. I've been working at it, but honestly, it's sad to see the state that it's been left in. Either give it a range buff or a damage buff, or just add an encounter where it would be good at. Atrax is too fast, but it's nice he's point blank, but that's more of a sword thing. But it's really sad to see the state it was left in.
Mm-hmm. So, moving on to bugs and the enemies. The bugs, we gave it a 0. There's been so many different error bugs and issues with that raid that can really throw you off. Like
looking at you, dogs.
Oh God, there was no pleasure in those gardens, Mike. Dogs being able to see you from across the map, and then you got Callus, which was my favorite one. When you go to the Void Room to pick up the orbs to go back to the throne room, and your guardian will just eat it, and you will stay there permanently.
Mm-hmm.
Or even though you hit the right one, the right Scion and Callus fight, you'll still, the platform won't spawn, so you'll die there. Gauntlet, you'll shoot the thing, but nothing ever works. That one's also really annoying to deal with. Sometimes the game won't register as you punch into Scions. There's a lot of glitches that, sure, some of them are a little bit game breaking, but they just add up over time. Where they could have fixed it.
It's dogs.
Dogs, yep. No pleasure in those gardens, my god. Okay. Enemies, we give it a 3 though, because at the time, Cabal were the big bad, and the fact that we were able to take them out in the raid, and we took out the Red Legion, which was this sector of the, like, use an example for the U.S. military, we took out the Marines, but now we had to take down the President. And Emperor Callus, even though, yeah, he was exiled, but still, he is the big bad for the Cabal. He is their leader.
And then you find out at the end, you got all of those just hanging up as you walk towards the chest.
I cried at that moment. Callus took me 6 hours to do it.
I think I single-handedly was the reason in Eater of Worlds when you went back through that room that there was so few of them. Single-handedly, yeah. That was me.
I cried when I did that because Callus took me 6 hours to do my first attempt, and I didn't know anything about it.
Oh, they had me use a blue rocket launcher with cluster bomb my first try.
And I had good gear and all, but it's just like it took us too long.
Then I carried my brothers, and they had blue rocket launchers too.
Yeah. Another thing was they made new enemy types. Like you had the special dogs about it. Sure, they had the war beasts, but they're just very they're just aggressive and almost like a thrall you can compare them to. But like these guard dogs there are more, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the dogs were actually named after big Cabal enemies that we fought in the past.
Oh, were they?
I think I'm not too sure on this. I heard this once.
We can't go back and check though. So
yeah, we can look it up though. I think like Valus to Arc was on there. A couple other Cabal bosses like this. I think the Siege Brother was on there.
The Shield Brothers, the two of them.
Yeah. Those are cool. But then you also had the Bubble Scions, which were a cool mechanic where it's just Scions, you can't go over there and just shoot it. You have to get up and close and personal. And they won't attack you, but you actually had to move and start, move. And most likely in the encounter, the Gauntlets, it was more about mobility. It definitely, the new enemy design, it wasn't a new enemy type, but the new design really matched well with the mechanics. Then we got Bathers.
Oh, I love Bathers. You sit there, Telesto them twice, when they pop up, it is over.
Yep. And by the way, when you kill those the Bathers, they were just being born. You're killing infants.
Oh, I just got Telesto back in Destiny 1 this last Friday from Xur.
Ooh.
It's actually pretty good. I like that thing.
Yeah.
I haven't leveled it up, but don't need to, which is probably the best part. Now, before we move on, we forgot to go back and list the totals for each of these, except for Vault of
Oh,
Glass, which we
yeah, we
probably
did.
should have been doing. Alright,
What?
so for Crota's End came out to a grand total of 28. King's Fall came out to 17, Wrath of the Machine at 33, and Leviathan at 24. Up next, we have Eater of Worlds. One moment, please, while we get to that.
So I got it right here.
I'll do
Well,
it. I'll do it.
go for it.
So while sneaking aboard the Leviathan, we are commissioned by the Cabal Emperor to clear out his ship and defeat Argos, planetary core, in the raid Leviathan Eater of Worlds, released on December 25th, 2017 in Destiny's first expansion, Destiny 2's first expansion, Curse of Osiris. So for
Quick correction, it was December 5th, not 25th. I wish it was released on Christmas.
Oh, did I say 25th? I meant 5th.
Yeah, I would
That's
love
alright.
if it was released on Christmas.
I wouldn't be able to play it if it was released on Christmas, but I didn't play it because I quit during Curse of Osiris. Anyways,
I just didn't play it to begin with because
starting out, length we gave it 1 because there's 2 encounters. You fight some people in that one spot after Leapfrog, and then you kill the boss, and that's really it. We don't count entrance encounters, which would have been Leapfrog. It really isn't an encounter, and it doesn't really count an encounter until you get to the boss. Well, you get to the boss room, which you got boss phase 1, boss phase 2, because those groups of enemies at the end of Leapfrog really isn't an encounter. I could sneeze and it'd be more of an encounter than that.
that's just
Alright.
a strike.
Yeah, it's not even a strike.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, after that, we have Environment. We gave it a 2. It's nothing new at that point. We had been in Leviathan for a while. It was just an underbelly. Nice looking Leapfrog, but the Vex part at the end, where you got the suspended pieces of Vex around this giant burning core, that was a bit cooler, so that's why it got a 2 instead of a 1.
You also got shot out of a giant cannon, which is cool.
But that's not really part of environment, that's more of mechanics and replayability.
Yeah.
Alright,
The
you go.
boss rooms also looked really cool. So, in terms of entry point, this one I give it a 3. It's a very easy to learn mechanic. Have you ever played a game of Leapfrog when you were 5? Congratulations, you know half the raid. And the final boss, it was very it was just easy to learn that part.
The hardest part
don't
was the
need-
Leapfrog.
Let's be honest, yeah, your teammates being impatient. You don't really need any specific weapons at all. Let's be honest. People have used every heavy weapon to kill Argos with. Sure, there's definitely like some top tier ones, but anything okay will suffice.
First team
it's
that got
probably
6 anarchies, popping those on him before the nerf, melting him in seconds.
Yeah, that was crazy. It's also very easy to carry. I mean, as long as your newbie knows how to jump, you can easily just do a 5-man or 4-man in my case. Mechanics, like I said, they're really the main and only mechanic to it. Jumping is not a mechanic. Bungie was the craniums, or I call it the cookers. It
Yeah.
was a
Cookie
cool and
ovens.
unique design to it, where it allows you to have more of like the lasers. It was a cool design, and you haven't really seen it return yet. Now think about it, there was one time it came back, and that was in the Menagerie, but Menagerie was a mistake in my opinion.
Oh, really?
It just I can go more detail with it later, but
I like the loot system in it, though.
it was cool. The loot system was the best thing about it, though, but I'm tired of going to Leviathan, and I hate that section of the Leviathan because of a certain raid we'll get to shortly.
Yes.
hate that
Alright. So we gave 3 for both of those. I don't remember him stating it, but we got to get on those point system there, Banana.
Yeah, 3 and 3.
So up next, we got gear at 1. Ugly looking armor and shaders with not really anything to write home about. I honestly cannot say off the top of my head I remember what it looks like. It was that lackluster.
Hey, Draxus, have you ever seen Ghostbusters 2 with the Safe Puff Marshmallow Man?
Oh, was that it?
That's the Titan armor. It looks like someone took a hose into his armor and just expanded it out. It looks horrifying.
Alright. And for weapons, we gave it a 1, because there was a grenade launcher, but it sucked, and there was a shotgun, but it wasn't good, but it wasn't bad, and they're both two heavy weapons at the time, but we're talking more of the end of the game. Its endpoint, which made the shotgun special, but it wasn't actually that special. Like, you could go into Menagerie and get that shotgun
Emperor's
from there.
Courtesy,
Emperor's Courtesy.
Aikilo's,
I
Seventh Seraph,
I love. I still got one of those Aikilos from the
Python.
dungeon.
Oh
You
yeah,
and
I
your
got one.
you
Which
and
Sparrow.
your Python. Jeez.
I love Python.
But there were better shotguns and definitely Wendigo, better grenade launcher.
Oh yeah, Swarm of the Raven, Doomsday, Interference.
I would say we could go on. Wish we could, but we gotta
don't
move
want
on.
to.
We gotta
Yeah.
move on.
For hero moments, zero. There's not really one you can do a counter by yourself. The Leapfrog, you literally cannot do it by yourself. Sure, the fighting section, you can easily do it by yourself, but let's be honest, if you've gone on patrol, that's the same thing. The actual encounters, sure, I think one person done a solo of it, but it's not enough that you can't really do a hero moment. Sure, when you're at the boss fight and you take down the shields, and you have to go around and shoot his body, but with nowadays,
It wasn't
you're playing
that high of a pressure to make it a hero moment.
Yeah, and besides, you're doing so much damage, you probably take them up before that even happens. So that we give it a 0. For combat, we give it a 2. Other than the Leapfrog encounter, you're usually fighting something at like constant time. It was really cool, and sure, there's the bullet section with like the Vex rings, which you weren't really fighting anything, but it was cool enough that you didn't really need to worry about it. It wasn't any long, drawn-out running section like Vault of Glass.
So up next we have replayability. You could play it through the first time, but there wasn't really a reason to keep going back. And for exotics, we gave it a 0 because there was only there for the Telesto catalyst, but Telesto is a good gun on its own. You don't really even need it.
Yeah, so going into the bugs, we give it a 3. There wasn't really any bugs that I can remember that were really bad, or if it was minor, it was more just of a once-in-a-blue moon little oopsie. It wasn't anything too crazy. And then the enemies, it's basic Cabal and Vex. I mean, at this point, the Cabal guy, we defeated them, we defeated their Emperor, well, a robot of it, but there's just, the threat of it definitely died down. The boss is cool, but it wasn't really anything too special, nothing new. So we give that a 1.
And that would wrap us up with Leviathan Eater of Worlds, scoring, one moment please.
18 points, actually.
18 points?
Yeah.
Alright. Yep, 18 points. Alright, let me scroll down really quick. Alright, after Eater of Worlds, we have Spire of Stars. Will you introduce?
Sure. Once again, we aboard the Leviathan, again in service of Callus, as we strike down the last of the Red Legion and Valakor in the raid Leviathan, Spire of Stars, released on May 8th, 2018.
Length, we gave it a 3 because there was 3 encounters. It's pretty self-explanatory. It was in the range. Environment, we gave it 3 because that first opening area with the massive gardens and the ships all up in the air, you get in there, it is a masterpiece, and you're fighting in this garden that, well played, Bungie there. Well played. It was really good. And it really showed off the Leviathan better than Eater of Worlds did at that point. But
even in the moments in the underbelly when you had the jumping section,
giant, it really shows better.
Oh my
Because
God, yeah.
Eater of Worlds, it showed a little bit. Yeah, this thing's kind of big, but you get in there, and unless you're a top tree Dawnblade, you're going to be there a while.
Yeah. It definitely showed the grand scale and it gave it a little bit of storytelling with it. So, with the entry point, we gave it a 2. The mechanics weren't really it wasn't too complicated. It wasn't anything crazy like King's Fall, but it was easy to learn. But the only weapon that you really needed was, I mean, it wasn't mandatory, but was it Warcliffe?
It was Warcliffe.
Yeah, it feels like Xur's always selling Warcliffe.
Today he's not.
Even that, yeah, today's not. I think it's Prometheus Lens.
Yeah.
I don't really care. But even that, it's a basic world job, so the main weapon that you really need is easy to get your hands on. It was a little bit difficult. It still is like a challenging fight, not just because of the enemy power level, but like the lack of cover. But
I'd say
I
the
would say,
boss itself is why we gave it a 2
yeah,
for entry point.
yeah. Mechanics too, very easy to learn, but it's easy to learn and understand, but it's nothing like groundbreaking. It's just cool. It was a cool thing to be able to jump up in space and you throw the ball, like to shoot the missiles in at it. But it's just you know how to throw an orb, but that's all you're doing. Something too crazy.
So gear, we gave it a 1. Once again, the Leviathan stuff wasn't doing too hot at this point because we had already had 2 raids featuring that armor. And so it, once again, not very popular. Weapons, we gave it a 1. Like, at this point, we're tired of 1 or 2 weapons dropping from a raid, which should be
Yeah, I think
dropping
it's a
full
fusion
armor, full
rifle and a
weapons.
sidearm.
I think I got the fusion rifle once, but I think I just needed legendary shards from that. It really, they weren't in a good spot at that point. They were losing money because people stopped playing. It was a bad spot.
They should have made it about Zol. Let's be honest.
Oh yeah, Zol should have been a raid boss.
Mm-hmm. So for hero moments, we gave it a 1. There's a potential for some, like being able to run down and be able to charge the weapons, or going up there and shooting the ships down, or in like the final
Grabbing
boss
the
room.
orb in the last chance.
Yeah, grabbing the
Yeah.
orbs, things like that, or if someone dies, you just quickly clutch it through. That's some there, but it wasn't really enough. So yeah, we gave that a 1. For combat, we gave it a 2. There's well placed waves of ads and enemies, and even the boss room. There's like gladiator slants needs to really keep you on your toes. We would have given it a 3 for that, but the jumping section didn't really have any ads that we could think of. There wasn't really anything. It was a long stretch of not fighting. Excuse me. Though the jumping mechanic did have cool areas to help you take your attention off it, but they should have had something else in there. Just maybe added a little bit of maybe add some like snipers on the rotating platforms. But for that, we gave it a 2.
So up next we have Exotics. Exotics it actually got a 2, despite not having its own unique raid exotic. But we had the emote, which we're both using right now, as you can see.
Best
And
emo in the game.
this is like the biggest flex you could do, because it was so hard to get until, Moments of Triumph 2020. I wish they hadn't done that, but
Yeah.
yeah, this is the biggest flex in the game still, because you can't get it. But then you also had the Sleeper Stimulant Catalyst, which I think decreases charge time, which for a fusion rifle like that is kind of a good thing to have, especially for
It's just
damage.
linear.
And then back in the day, you had the exotic chest, which would drop the exotics you need. And that was a big thing back then, because that's how people filled out their collections. So though sometimes people wouldn't even go to the boss, they'd just get to the jumping puzzle and quit, people were still coming back to do it. So so we gave it a 3 for replayability, because you kept coming back for that stuff. And then 2 for exotics.
Yeah, so going into more of the bugs, we gave it a 1. There's been times where the orb will glitch out, and sometimes you'll just never be able to pick it up, and you'll throw it at the boss, but it'll do nothing, or it'll just miss Callus's, like Robot Callus's hand. I had that happen way too many times. But there's the little bit glitches that it has. When the game glitches and it breaks bad. There's no recovery of it. You better restart.
Yeah, we had a run. It was Prestige, and one person had a trace rifle instead of a fusion rifle. They were running Divinity, and the game didn't like that. We don't know how those two things correlated, but it kept causing the ships to eat the balls. Every time we threw a ball, it got eaten. And then he switched off of Divinity to a fusion rifle, and it went back to normal. So we don't know how those two things correlated, but it really did, and it was terrible. We had hours in there just because of that.
Yeah. And the enemies, we give it a 2. It's basic a ball. Again, like Eater Worlds and Leviathan, it's the same stuff, but it's just there wasn't anything new, nothing really to go gawk at. But even though it was Cabal, the Cabal are very, like in the story, they're very like militaristic and very aggressive. So with that final boss room not really having a lot of cover, it was actually a good enemy type. I would think if that boss room was going to put somewhere else, I would not pick any other race other than Cabal to put in there.
Maybe throw a new
So,
Cabal enemy in there.
sure, something like that. So
Alright.
with adding that up, you got a total of 23 points. Good
Alright.
job, Scooter.
I believe it's my turn to introduce the next.
Yep.
So, with the death of Cade Six and the vengeance of Unoldren Sov, we enter the Dreaming City to end the Great Hunt and killing Riven of 1,000 Voices, the last known Ahamkara in the raid Last Wish, released September 14th, 2018 in Destiny 2's first yearly expansion, Forsaken. So this raid, probably the most popular raid, just for its legacy,
So,
don't it really doesn't hold up. So we give it a 1 for encounters because there is 6, which is 2 above par. You know, the 3 to 4 range. 6 is a bit much. Environment 3, Dreaming City, masterpiece, beauty, really showed the home of the Awoken. And it was well-designed scenery, especially as you slowly get in, it's more and more taken and corrupted and breaking up from its entry point where it's just a beauty. Speaking of entry point.
yeah, so the entry point for it, we give it a 0. This thing has too many mechanics to deal with. You got the different symbols, which for some reason people can't seem to figure that part out. Oh my god. I'm just thinking of the time we tried carrying some of our buddies in there and they couldn't figure out how to just look at the same spot.
We tried carrying our Destiny group in, which you can join by hopping into our Discord. We'll go ahead and add you with our PS4 people, but we tried carrying our Destiny group, and it really got us slaughtered. Like, me and him were the only one knew what we were doing. It took us, 2 hours for Shirochi? No, Callie. Callie.
This is Callie.
It was Callie. We never got to console room Shirochi. They were using Lament on Callie, and I was using Fallen Guillotine and Thunder Crash.
Divinity. Yeah,
he was using Divinity and getting more damage than them. It was sad. It took him well over an hour to figure out which door they step in. It's
or
brutal.
not even to understand understand the bingo or tic-tac-toe part. That part was
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Pain
but
to the extreme. They just quit.
There's too many mechanics to memorize. I mean,
Banana Man here was pissed.
Oh yeah, I was about ready to punch my TV. But like, even there's so mechanics that I've done this raid a crap ton of times. I don't even remember how to do Mogorith all the way.
I vaguely got that one down.
Yeah, and then let's be honest. When's the last time you done Riven legitimately? Yeah, never. That's what I thought. You'd never do Riven legitimately.
I don't know how.
It's yeah. But yeah, so for the mechanics, we give it a 1.
Yeah. Alright, so after mechanics, which was very tedious, we went to gear. Honestly, the gear, once again, we kind of, at this point, after some of the good stuff we've had, like Crota's End, King's Fall, the Destiny 2 stuff, we had a pretty low bar there, but where we're at now, we are starting to get better raid gear, so at this point, the gear, it was just average armor at this point. Weapons, there were 3. We gave it 3 for weapons. They were very popular. You had Supremacy. What were the other ones? I don't know them. He does.
The weapons?
Yeah, the weapons.
You got Pulse Rifle, Chattering Bone, Hand
I almost
Cannon,
said Waking
Nation
Visual, but that's from the dungeon.
Yeah, no, you got Hand Cannon, Nation of Beasts. You got the Supremacy Sniper Rifle.
They were unique looking too. I loved the looks of them. I just couldn't get to use them. I didn't like them.
You got that one fusion rifle that I never got.
When you have that sneak bow that doesn't work because no one uses sneak stuff.
Yeah, you get the Apex Predator, which is the worst name for that rocket launcher. That thing was horrible. And then you got there's one more. I think it was like a sword or something.
I don't think there was a sword.
I don't remember what it was.
But they were good. Good looks, good abilities.
It was good, but it could have done better.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if we're going into more of the hero moments, you only got really one spot for hero moments, and the only thing you had was Queen's Walk. You had to get lucky in order to do this hero moment too, because the order of when you would get teleported in was random. You didn't know if you're going to get
Just
pushed in or not.
restart every time. If the new guy's not the first one, you just wipe.
Yeah, it was. Oof. Yeah, that's why we gave it a 1. Queen's combat, we give it a 3. You're constantly fighting, and the breaks are well placed around. So you got the little break between Callie and Shiro-Chi and Mogareth, but it's just
You
like
got the nice peaceful garden, but you're still not really alone. Like the
yeah,
other ones, they're kind of empty in the jumping puzzles, but this one it had scenery to look at because
look
you're
at
not
you,
in the
walk the
underbelly of a
glass.
ship, and you're going along. It's really good looking,
You're
but
walking through a forgotten city.
yeah,
Yeah, I like it. But like even the combat, like the more combat heavier focused ones, like Shiro-Chi, easy, well maintained. You pop on a tether, you're good to go.
Up next, we have replayability. I gave it a 1. I was the one solely responsible for this because, honestly, who goes back to do the entire raid? Every time they hop up in the wish wall, reset to Riven. You do? I've never seen you
No, I
play that
don't.
raid.
I'm just kidding.
I haven't
I
seen
don't do
you
that.
play that raid ever. Ever. You've never. I don't think you've even played the raid. I don't think you got the weapon either.
No, I played the raid. Oh,
So
once.
people just go back, beat Riven for the exotic. It's about the first time you play it. After that, it's not really something you go back and do much. Riven was cool looking. Gotta admit, nice, big, not as big as Oryx, but you do it once, you're done.
It's a space dragon. Woo!
And then for exotics, we gave it a 2 because 1K, it's good. It's good, but it's not as defining as something like the Outbreak Prime, which really built the community that it is today, or something like Anarchy or Divinity. Those things are used to the extreme still.
Yeah,
Like
not
day
meta
one
defining.
raids are always beat by an Anarchy and a Divinity now.
Yep.
But yeah, 1K, it looked cool. It did a bit of damage, but it's kind of overshadowed, and I think it's a bit underappreciated.
I still don't have 1K.
I do.
I'm kind of salty about that.
I have everything.
Anyways, for the bugs, they're mostly mild. There wasn't anything really game breaking. Sure, sometimes when you're fighting Callie, the door won't open, or
All the doors just
sometime-
disappear.
Yeah, that too. Oh, they'll never close. Or my least favorite is when you're doing the sword cheese against Riven, and
Just something goes wrong and you don't know what.
Yeah.
Because
yeah,
another thing that I have noticed is it's
Queen's
not
Walk.
a bug, but in the Morgoth encounter, when you got like 2 of those stacks and then it freezes you, it's not a bug, but the randomness of when that will happen, it's really bad. I really don't like that. A lot of people, I believe, don't. But the randomness is kind of the game killer there.
there is one glitch that I really hate. When you're doing Queen's Walk, you'll be really far away from the ball, and
Oh,
you still
yes.
get teleported in, and it's
Oh,
like,
the pain.
great. This sucks.
Everyone backs up. They're all across the room, and one of them gets
Yeah.
teleported. And they're all screaming at him. The dude's sitting there confused, like, "What did I do? I'm away from this thing."
Yeah, I'm 15 feet away from it. Yeah, I got teleported. So yeah, we get that at 2. I mean, it was fine, but nothing really game breaking. You can easily restart. Let's be honest, you're restarting Queen's Block anyways because the newbie didn't get picked first.
Oh yes, it's
yeah.
always. And then you got that one guy who gets wiped out right when he forgets to
Yeah.
bank. I've had it. They get to the end. They're standing there.
Oh.
They forget to bank the orb. But that brings us out at 20 points for the Last Wish raid.
Yeah,
All right,
the
you're
enemy's-
up next.
The enemy's taken. Yeah, so with the next raid, with the Forges of the Black Army reunited, We turn to our gaze at the last city to confront the Elixni intruders and strike down Insurrection Prime in Scourge of the Past, released on December 7th, 2018, and Destiny 2's Season of the Forge.
Alright, I'll start us off with length. We gave this one a 3 because you had that starting opening room, the Sparrow race, and then the 2 for the boss, which put it at 4 encounters, just on par. Environment, we also gave it 3 because that was our first time, I believe, at that point, where we got to see the inside of the city in ruins. Actually, just at all. Before that, we had never.
Homecoming mission.
I
the
guess,
first mission,
yeah.
But...
There's the story mission, but we wanted to use that space more. It was big and it was open, and you had this full city block or more available in this, and you got canals. It's not straight roads. It's cool buildings, alleyways, everything. It just built that up, and it was amazing. And then you get to that final boss. You got those wrecked buildings all around, and you're standing on them, shooting at shooting all the vandals off the top of the roofs, watching the windows for peekers and whatnot. It was honestly, they could have made a Crucible map out of some of those. I'd love to see the first encounter as a Crucible map.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. And then you had those sewerage ways. The canals, it was so well done. I believe that is honestly my favorite environment in every raid we've had so far.
You just like Fallen design, let's be honest.
Fallen just got it right. Bungie needs to do that more.
I mean, you have literally you're named after a Fallen and from D1.
No, I had this name before he was invented. And it's spelled differently.
I don't care. Yeah, that's true.
Alright, you're up next.
Yeah, so for this, the entry point for this, we'll put it at 3. Very easy to learn mechanics. It's just basic shapes and colors, and if you know how to, if you know the, for us, for at least English, if you know the alphabet, you're good to go. It's also very easy to carry. There's multiple times where me and a group of my buddies who would speedrun it, and we'll just bring in a couple newbies here and there who just want to clear, or at least trying to get your access to Anarchy, especially with the drop rate buff. But it's also, you can use a wide variety of weapons. So for the first parts of it, you don't really need anything. But for the final boss, you really need... Risk Runner was very good. Not for the boss, but you need some sort of sniper or
for the
scout.
first half, when you're trying to run through those bottom tunnels, you get Risk Runner. Ruinous Effigy turned out quite well. Heir Apparent. Just going through there with a good weapon that kept you alive.
Yeah.
Crimson.
But when you go to the boss room, not the boss room, like the boss fight, you get a couple different options. You have the go-to Whisper of the Worm, Outbreak Perfected with Catalyst.
Unpopular opinion, Outbreak Perfected. People just really wanted to use that Whisper. But when you do it, you get that halfway through, because they just, for some reason, they can't get their CAP right, so they keep, only getting half damage, and then you're out of ammo. But if you're using Outbreak, you get that half damage easy, sometimes 2/3, and then you just do it again. You got primary ammo, so it's all over the place. And then Outbreak could kill those berserkers solo. Really helped.
Yeah, you can also use some like Last Hope for the berserkers, but there's also the very, very, very unpopular opinion, and I still don't like Draxus for mentioning this. Queensbreaker was apparently thinking. No, I don't care how much damage it does. Whisper is better.
They need to make Queensbreaker a special ammo weapon.
They do.
Like it wasn't Destiny 1.
Yeah, it doesn't do that much damage to deserve heavy weapon. But then for the mechanics, like we said, it's very easy to learn, but very unique as well, especially with the whole map thing. That's the first time we ever seen a map of the boss room being used in a raid, or just in Destiny in general. It was really cool being able to have like a little. You have to make your own key for it. It was really nice, and the mechanics are also very easy to learn. Like we said, basic geometric shapes, and just understand the C, A, and P wasn't anything too too like crazy like stuff you'll see in the previous raids.
Looking at you, Last Wish, King's Fall. So up next, we're here once again at gear. Armor, okay, like, the shader's what really makes up for it. Armor's not too, once again. At this point in time, they really hadn't gotten back into the classic, amazing, standout armor that Destiny 1 was known for with its raids. So we're still in era, the dark ages of the armor. The shader, the black and red one, and the midnight, all the shaders from that were really what made up for it at this point. And then for weapons, we gave the weapons a good old-fashioned 2. Above average, not eccentric, not... You had the, what was it, threat level, the shotgun?
Yeah, that was a decent one.
The shotgun was good.
Yeah.
The rest of them were about average. And especially getting into the Season of the Forge, you had the Black Armory forges where you could just make weapons, like the Hammerhead, and all of those. Yeah, it was just so much better of a mechanic, and you still had the Ikelos around at that time, so
yeah,
threat level was overshadowed at that point.
It did have a special thing about it because it was a kinetic shotgun versus a energy one. So
yeah,
I guess there is that. But when you look at it now, Ikelos came back again, and we have more weapons that have
perfect paradox.
Yeah, it's like now you have even more transparent weapons. Like,
and now we have
paradox.
Nothing. We got slug shotguns and kinetic snipers.
Woo!
I hate both.
Let's be honest, that's the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to more of hero moments. This one we give it a 3. The whole entire Sparrow encounter is a hero moment. I was able to solo that Sparrow encounter, and you always had this. Like,
I was that
guys.
One guy that left everyone. I am such a good Sparrow guy.
That is me, yeah. Because there's always the 3 guys that, for some reason, they can't seem to ride a Sparrow. So you always have to clutch it up for the team, and
then you use that raid Sparrow that says it does something, but everyone really knows it really doesn't.
Yeah, the placebos wear off after a while. It was another hero moment with the boss phase 1. Being able to one-tank it through some sort of manipulation, I still don't know what they're doing, but you're able to break down the boss's shield.
I don't know, but it's funny.
With one tank. It's really cool to shoot a bunch of mini rockets and then they get back in. Someone else gets in and they shoot one rocket, it does like over 70% of the boss's health, and it's like, okay. Or being able to like break down the Berserker's shield with one man, with Outbreak or Last Hope or something like that. Being able to run around and check out the shields, the boss's shield, or for a stun as well. Very, like, more the moments of, like, you think, like, wow, thanks to this guy, we can still continue the encounter.
Or your teammate's not there yet at the Berserker, and you kill him.
Yeah, or that too. It's also that's why we give it a 3. It was really good. Combat, we also give it a 3. No matter what you're doing, you're under attack. And if you're not under attack, you're going through very unique areas that really capture your attention. Like when you break into the Black Armory vaults, and it's like, well, you realize this place has been ransacked by the Fallen. But everywhere you're doing, like, you got the first encounter, which is really cool because even though you're in technically your territory, the Fallen are trying to keep their stolen land. It's you're always fighting against things. You're always being surrounded by snipers that you constantly need to be keeping an eye open. And then the Sparrow encounter. Even a counter that forces you to be on a Sparrow that doesn't have any sort of weapons, you're still getting attacked at, and I think that's a really cool design.
And then you gotta hit the buttons as you go.
Oh yeah, that too. And you have the sun chasing you down. It's just like, I thought we left you back in Wrath of the Machine.
Alright, up next we got replayability. This we give it a 3 because returning for weapons, not really the armor, the exotic definitely, the Sparrow, and the gameplay. That's the raid I have the most clears on. I just kept going back for it. It was the perfect raid in my opinion. The weapon was amazing, still used to this day. The armor, everything. It's really what...
The shader was phenomenal too.
It's when stuff got back to getting good. Stuff was getting good right around then. And then the exotic anarchy is the key to Grandmasters, Nightfalls, and Day 1 raids. Because you use that and it is done. Because you use that, switch to another weapon, you put out so much damage, it's unbelievable.
Excuse me. When you go to more of the bugs and glitches out of it, the only real glitches that are in there were ones that people can exploit to be beneficial, like being able to do the one tank, which I don't know how that works, or you get some like being able to like glitch out of bounds and complete the raid in under 5 minutes, which is always fun to do that. And like in the bust, and there wasn't really any glitches in there that really broke the game or was affected to like the players harshly, other than just like little mishaps here and there. But it wasn't anything too crazy like you'll see in
Crotas.
Crotas, Vault of Glass. So we give the bugs a 3 for that, and the enemies for 3. It's Fallen, which is always going to be fun to take down because they had the perfect balance of close range, frantic, but also
Headshots.
long range. Yeah, that too. They also released the boss being a brand new type of enemy. So far, only raid I can think that had a new type of enemy was Callus. If you're really squinting,
Vault of
Crota's
Glass.
End. Yeah, Crota's End. Vault of Glass. I mean, Vault of Glass 18 was just a big Minotaur.
Nice. You're talking new enemies, right? Fanatics.
Yeah. No, I'm talking about the boss being a new type of enemy. Like a boss being unique and outstanding. I mean, you got the King's Fall Oryx is huge. You got it's more of a Last Wish as well for having a giant dragon, which is cool. Deepstone Crypt having a flying spider tank.
It was a shank.
It was a heavy shank. I mean, Wrath Machine had the mixture of it too, but like Insurrection Prime, or the Briggs as they're now called, was a brand new type that we never seen anything similar to it, and it was a really cool design.
And then we also got those Berserkers.
Yeah, that too. Berserkers they just took the original idea of like a captain, but made it better. I liked it.
And that brings us up to the total of 34 for the Scourge of the Past, going pretty high right there. Nice to see. Alright, up next we got Banana Man's Hero's favorite raid, the Crown of Sorrow. At last we enter the Leviathan for our final time to defeat the Hive, unless you're Banana's case, doing it how many times for Teraba?
Over 400.
Alright, and defeat their corrupted champion, Galron, the Sorrow Bearer, in the final season of Forsaken, released June 4th, 2019, in the Crown of Sorrow. Or the Crown of Sour.
Give this man some Skittles.
So, length, we had to give it a 3, because it's technically 3 encounters. I see, Banana Man, you wrote some absurd words in there. Environment, we gave it a 1, because the only thing that saved its environment was the boss room, honestly. The jumping puzzle sucked. The first area, it wasn't new. It was literally an encounter in Menagerie.
Which you
did a lot.
Countless times beforehand.
That's what killed it.
Yeah.
Alright.
In entry point, we gave it a 1. Although the mechanic is simple, you must understand the mechanic in and out.
No forgiveness. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's not. Oh my god. It's annoying. And what else you get to is you need a few select weapons. Sure, you don't need, you need this, and this. It's more of this, or this. So you use Xenophage, which was a go-to for us. Outbreak Perfected.
Heir Apparent broke him.
Heir Apparent broke him, yeah, but I didn't
Anarchy back in the day. Oh yeah, we're still we stopped getting him his Heir Apparent so we could bring this to you guys. So
you're welcome.
Please give him some support. He needs it.
Yeah, I need my Heir Apparent. But yeah, it's just the mechanics about it. It's really the hard part that I wouldn't really recommend new players going into. Thankfully, it's gone forever. Hopefully, Bungie, please.
15 clears before I got it, but 7 of them were in one day with the same team. He wasn't there for it, but it was pain.
400 clears.
I don't think you actually have that much. I'll report you later.
I have other account. I have another account that I use.
No, you don't.
Yeah, I do.
No, you don't.
Okay, yeah, I'm exaggerating, but still, I never got that gun. I did.
Oh.
About a solid year later.
All right.
Mechanics,
yeah.
we give it a 0, like we said. Overbearing and tedious, and you must have communication, but if you have too much, you can't have too much communication.
Yeah, everyone's calling out, you don't know who's calling out where, and it just kills you just for doing your job.
Yeah, especially when you're playing with LFG, when you don't recognize people's voices. So it's like, wait, who's talking? Me.
Yeah. So up next, this is where me and Banana actually had met. We were both on Dog's side, I believe.
remember that. Dog side. Yeah,
Dog's side. That was ours. We toughed it out and we did it. All
Yeah.
right. So up next we have gear. Cool. Almost half decent looking. Terrible shader. I really don't like that
Orange
shader.
is not a good color.
Yeah. Especially with that weird yellow with it.
Yeah, it's like an orange or like a dirty purple.
Weapons, forgettable.
Yeah, the only memorable weapon was like Galaron's right hand because
I
it's
think
a weird
that
name.
heavy machine gun got an interesting combination, but it wasn't
I forgot
interesting.
that thing was called.
So do I. Doesn't matter. It's
Yeah.
dead. We can't get it anymore, and we can't use it anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, we gave it a 2 for gear and 0 for weapons.
Yeah. So going in towards the hero moments, we give it a 0 because let's be honest, if one person dies, it's a reset because you physically cannot do damage to certain enemies. And
This is
every
where
enemy
my
needs to be
hate of
dead.
hunters grew deep, because the hunters would always die.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just like the mechanic made it so you could not really low man this, not easily.
I heard one
but
time you will never find a good LFG hunter, and you'll never find a bad LFG titan, but you'll never find a good one at the same time.
Yep, there's just like, yeah, everyone has their own thing about it. The combat, it was fine. I mean, other than trying to like the different mechanics, having certain enemies be like an actual threat to you, or a thrall is now a serious threat because you'll never be able to kill it by yourself.
Unless you have
That was
Doom
a cool
Archers.
idea. Yeah, unless you have Doom Archers or if you have Colony. But if you're using Colony in Raid, we have more issues at hand.
Such as Colony.
But just Colony. Yeah. And then like that point, it was just like high weapon requirements. You needed certain weapons. Sure, most of them are quests, but they're not really lengthy, but annoying quests. I mean, zero hours is fine for Outbreak, but Xenophage. Recently, we tried getting our buddy Xenophage, and the ruins in the last sectors glitch out so badly. Fun fact: if you're gonna do that now, use a pulse rifle. It works like a charm, but nothing else will.
Alright.
Sweet.
Anyways, after that, we got up next replayability. 0. No, I can't say anyone except Evan F. who actually likes this raid.
I love it, man, but you're no.
Yeah, it's just wrong. Like you're entitled to your opinion, but if you like this, your opinion is wrong. This thing was pain and sorrow. Only time I know people who went through it again was to help someone, or to get the weapon for collection, the exotic for collections,
And you
and
never touch
only
it ever again.
collections. I touched it a
Yeah.
couple times to try to get it to work, but it's honestly I'd rather use my messenger with Desperado. It's the same thing but easier to activate.
I'd
So
rather use literally anything other than Teraba.
Teraba is also known as the Terrible or the Teraba, as Banana Man wrote down, and it is truly terrible. I mean, it can mow some enemies down when you get its perk active, but you got to kill like 5-10 enemies
You get it perked
with an
and
SMG. When I could use a
Yeah.
pulse rifle, get one headshot, reload with my outlaw, and mow everything over. Yeah, no, I'd rather use my pulse rifle, which is legendary,
Look at me,
than an
my
exotic.
messenger. Yeah.
Dude, you got one too, didn't you? You got rapid hit, right? Rapid hit Desperado?
Yeah, rapid hit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Shut up. It's not proving my point though.
Mine is ricochet rounds, though.
I don't care. I don't remember what I have.
Go,
I don't play,
go.
I don't mess with it. Yeah. Hey, Bugs. We give it a 3. There wasn't really any game-breaking glitches. The problems that you had with it was the people you were playing with and the mechanics themselves. In terms of glitches, it was fine. The enemies, it was a hive, and the mechanic kind of gave a new era to the blessed enemies, which was, I guess, a cool design. The boss was also really cool because even though you're fighting hive, the boss was technically Cabal. It was actually a bather, so that was cool.
And then the helmet fell off after you killed him.
Yeah, and you'll get killed by the helmet, ruining a flawless run.
Oh
That
yeah.
happened to me 2 times in a row, and I wanted to scream.
But that brings us to a grand total of 14, our current low. So up
Yeah.
next, I believe it's your turn.
Yeah. So, at the Imitation of the Darkness, we return to the site of our first triumph and enter the Garden of Salvation to put an end to the sanctified mind, soul inherent. Released on October 5th, 2019, and Destiny 2's Year 3 expansion, Shadowkeep.
So this is really when I got back into the game. So when I first played this game, I played it Destiny 2 release on PC, but switched to PS4 at the end of Forsaken, like well at the end of Season of Opulence. And I got in, started doing a couple raids, but I got here, I thinking, me and this LFG team, we're going to go for Worlds first. And I realized after 6 hours in the first encounter, I needed to get better. And in 1 year, I accumulated every exotic in Destiny 2. Actually, less than a year. And I still keep it up to this day. And this is really what drove me to become a better player, this one raid. So we gave it length 3 because it's only 3 encounters. Or wait, hold on. No, length is 3. I think there's more than 3 encounters.
It's like 4.
It's 4. So yeah, that's on par.
Yeah.
Environment 3 because the scenery, it really is probably the best scenery after Scourge of the Past because it's not really like you look at this place and you see a garden world that the Vex always envision but never create. And you think, how can a place of such darkness be this beautiful garden? But then you stop and smell the flowers and you see these fruits with faces on them, screaming in pain.
I forgot about that. That is horrifying.
You go from this beautiful garden, but you take a step close and you look at what is sitting on those flowers and you see darkness.
Yeah, it kind of gives an
The
idea.
lie in the light is the dark.
Yeah, it's more of like you take a more the storytelling point of it where it's like, yeah, darkness seems really cool, and that's what like characters like Aramis did. But when you actually look in the nitty gritty details of it, it's just like this is horrible.
This
how
is
much you're
something
sacrificing.
we probably should have never
Yeah.
touched, like the atrocities of Clovis Bray on Europa. Check out My
Yeah.
Name is Bife for all of those.
Yeah, Icefall Mantle. Oh,
Oh yeah.
it's very disturbing. It even like more of like when you look at the gardens, you look at the scenery and everything. There's moments where you're allowed to take it all in. After you do the encounter, it's just like, especially the opening one, you get to walk around. If you're doing Divinity, you have plenty of time to look around, going, "Wow, this place is actually really beautiful."
And then I remember day one, actually it's around the end of day one, going through it again, trying to look at all those puzzles. I was probably one of the first 100 people to get Divinity. We scoured that place to find the puzzles, going through raid secrets, all of that. I was live streaming it. That was my first successful live stream because I got 1.7 thousand views. I would like to get there again someday. But we tried hard and we got really into that. I was up for 36 or 48 hours at that point. I tried contacting My Name is Bife. He told me to go to bed. It really was a cool quest doing Divinity, but not as good as some of the other ones, such as Whisper or Black Spindle, Outbreak Perfected.
It stands. It's like holds its own, but it's not.
Yeah, it doesn't
Not
hold
the
up at that
pinnacle.
well. Honestly, I
Yeah.
think this was the last time we truly had something unique as like an
Yeah.
exotic quest. This was the last one as of yet.
Yeah, the only thing that holds up to it recently was maybe Ruinous Effigy, but
No, Ruinous Effigy was still a quest, and it gave it to you straight out. This one, you actually had to find where to start the quest, and then do
Oh,
some
yeah.
puzzles to get to it. But
I
then,
forgot the Divinity quest, to be honest.
yeah, the Divinity quest, it's been a while. But then you get in. I think the closest thing recently was the Yeehaw Cowboy, but that thing, it doesn't really hold up to a secret quest because it really wasn't a secret.
Yeah, Bungie immediately released it. I
And
mean,
they told everyone. If they didn't tell anyone or tell anyone how to get it, and it was found,
I would love. Yeah,
yeah, if it was, yeah.
community found. That would have been really cool. For the entry point for this raid, we give it a 2. It's very easy to teach, and it's not that hard to learn. You kind of also learn as you go.
So I went back and played this yesterday. Quick correction:
sorry.
harpy moment. The harpy, when you fight the harpy, it can get a bit tedious. People will die. You got the eyes team that keeps falling unless you're me. You got those people in Gambit team that can't get down there fast enough. No, I'm just that good. But you just have those issues, the small hiccups that it will kill the team.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still a good thing to teach people on.
It's doable.
It's a good raid.
The only issue though is that you need to have certain weapons for this.
Whisper
really no
of the
exceptions.
Worm doesn't take it anymore.
Yeah, Izanagi's burden. This is when the Izanagi
Nope.
huge.
Not anymore. We went
Well,
back
not
through
anymore,
and we were
yeah.
playing it last night. Xenophage, probably the easiest exotic to get. Easy,
Yeah,
big damage.
If you're playing as Titan,
is
you put on
the-
Acheron War Rig.
Well, hunters, you got the dodge, but just Xenophage is really taking
Or
the cake right
warlords.
now.
Yeah. And even like the final boss, I mean, people use Wendigo, but you can't really use that anymore. Thanks, Bungie. But yeah, like you just need you need a lot more weapons and like stuff from like D1. So we give it a 2 for that. For the mechanics, we give it a 3. It was a cool like tether-based mechanic, which at this point you probably fought a bunch of Scorn or been the Crucible with a Hunter and Mayhem. You understand how tether works, so it was a really cool idea of putting that into.
Oh, I remember day one trying to figure out where that tether went.
Oh yeah.
Oh. And then we found that wall on the side and put it there, and it started, and because we were shooting the Minotaur and we shouldn't have.
Yep. But it's always
Fun
cool stuff
call
there.
out. One time I did a full Garden of Salvation raid clear with a whole team only using Drifter callouts while wearing a Drifter mask during the Festival of the Lost. We didn't speak English, we spoke Drifter, and it worked flawlessly. I don't think we
Vex
got
on the
any
field.
deaths. Yeah, we had Vex on the field, Bank them Moat's brother, Invader's back, and they got 4 kills. Stuff like that, and it's so funny that it works so well, and that's the stuff that keeps us playing this game, is fun stuff
Yeah.
like that.
With mechanics, it was a fun twist on Gambit, so we give it a 3.
It really was, and
Yeah, we give it a 3.
not sorry, people. Up
Yeah.
next, we got gear. So the raid gear, unfortunately, we gave it a 2, because it was reskinned Eververse armor. That was definitely what hurt it, but it looks good. Like, at this point,
Especially the blue design.
after the point of what raid did we say was really kicking off the armor look? Crown of Sorrow?
Scourge, I think.
No,
Crown,
Scourge
yeah,
was a
probably
bit.
Crown
of Sorrow
had
is
good
when armor started getting better, and here it really did look good. But once again, it was a reskin Eververse armor. People were upset, but it was good armor. All right, and weapons, we gave it a 2 again. So a lot of those weapons have really good rolls and really good looks and abilities and whatnot. You got that auto rifle with, I honestly forgot what auto rifle, swashbuckler, rampage,
Yeah,
pretty average
something like
stuff. The bow, archer's tempo, rampage, or explosive rounds. That fusion rifle, I got one with disruption, break, and rampage yesterday.
got
The
shotgun
sniper
1-2
was disappointing, but the shotgun, I think it had feeding frenzy 1-2 punch. Because I would run that and blasphemer on my hunter. So I'd actually run triple shotguns with Liar's Handshake for a while using that. Hate me if you want, but that's what I did.
Take a guess at what heavy shotgun he used.
Good luck.
Yeah, say good luck. Another thing that
Tractor
we
cannon.
also, whatever. Also, there's the Sacred Providence. I think I
The
pronounced
pulse
that was
rifle,
right name.
yep. I had a rapid hit kill clip.
Kill clip. Yeah, that was.
I got that
phenomenal.
like week 1. I used that for a long time until I don't remember when I stopped using it.
Reasons. Then bygones came back and stole my heart.
I don't remember what made me stop using that.
Well, I don't know either, but regardless,
Anyways, yep, your
yeah.
turn.
The hero moments, we give it a 3 because almost every encounter has it. You got the first encounter, you got the one guy who he will just sacrifice himself at like at the very end when you're chasing out the boss. You have the bunch of the Cyclops fields, I call it. You have a bunch of people sacrificing themselves so he can stay alive, and there's that one guy, usually a top tree warlock, booking it
Me.
down there as fast as he can. I'm not pointing fingers. I never did garden with you.
That's
We're
what I
booking it
always
down
do.
there as fast as you can, and you get to the very end, and you be able to complete the encounter while everyone else is dead. And meanwhile, you have a bunch of Cyclops and Minotaurs shooting at you. It's a very epic moment. You got the other
And then you
areas
got
where
the next encounter where you got to defend those four confluxes.
confluxes.
And then
If you're the guy
people are
helping
dying, and
tether
you're all
everything,
in that one in the middle, and you're all fighting. It's like that end of Avengers: Age of Ultron, where they're standing there defending the point as waves
oh
just come
yeah,
at them.
it's such
That's
an
what it
epic
feels
moment.
like, and it's so put together. Well done. I love that. You got the big guys coming, the little guys coming. You got to keep them from sacking. It was
Yeah.
so good.
You even got the boss encounter where you help repair the bridges.
You're dying, the boss is shooting, you get floating there, the
Yeah,
hunters are dead, you're trying to repair the bridges. Yeah,
you're
it
trying
was
to
really
revive
good,
as much as you
except the
can.
hunters.
Yeah. If you can't tell, Draxus hates the hunters with a burning passion.
Because I'm right. We'll do a video. I'm thinking
We'll
next week
explain
where we'll
that
go over
later.
all of that.
We'll explain it later. Combat, we give it a 3. You were always like you're getting like a decent amount of fighting, and then like I said, in certain moments it really amps it up towards the end of it. So you get the first encounter when you're running down to the Cyclops field. It's so much that you're literally not you're not expected to fight everyone. You're just freak out and go, cool, we're just gonna run past it. You got the second encounter where you're holding down the line and you're just standing there holding ground to make sure that nothing happens. And then you get some more like the boss fight where you're just taking out all the ads that maybe sacrificing. I keep a decent awareness of it. But even in more, my favorite thing about it, even in like the transitional encounters, as I call it, when you're up on that weird windmill thing that a Titan will always shoulder charge you off of it. Speaking of personal
I
experience,
haven't had that.
it's annoying. Or someone takes there with a sword. Yeah, fun stuff. Even when you get up there, you see this beautiful waterfall, and you see this beautiful scenery, but there's ads shooting at you. So it always keeps you on your toes, and I really like that. That's why we give it a 3.
And then after that, you jump across that Radiolarian lake. You get up there. There's that pathway with the open scenery behind you, and you look to your left, and there it is, the fruit plant with faces. Alright, up next we got replayability. So, replayability is 1. Because, honestly, the ones that have the exotic quest for the weapon, you get a lower replayability, because at this point we still don't, in this point in Destiny 2's history, we still don't have real raid weapons that had something unique like in Destiny 1. But, at that point, the only real reason to go back was because it was the only pinnacle drop at that point in time. And then the exotic, we have Divinity, which, once again, you win day ones with Divinity and Anarchy. That's how it works right now, and that's probably how it will work forever, in now that Destiny 2 is the end of Destiny. But
Yeah.
it's going to go till the end, and Divinity Anarchy will be there with us for every day one. And nothing can change that at this point, I believe.
Yeah. When we go into more of the bugs, we give it a 3. I personally can't think of really any game-breaking bugs. Like always, there's always the once in a blue moon flukes that happen here and there, but nothing at a constant rate of other rates that we've talked about earlier. But for this one, it was a decent balance. It wasn't really anything too crazy, so we gave it a 3. The enemies, we give it a 3 because it's more the Vex that we haven't really seen much of, and we kind of knew like in the season, it's like, oh, they're talking about the Vex possibly messing with the darkness and whatnot, but it matches really well with the scenery of like it's the Vex in the raid were more of like broken down precursors, so we're going to a place that hasn't been touched by like the humanity's like I don't
We
even know
hadn't
what to call
gone
it, but,
there
like,
since year
corrupting
one.
Yeah, we haven't touched there in what at that point 5-6 years.
Yeah,
So it's definitely had time to heal, and when you go back there, it's a beautiful scenery that the effects are
they're all
there.
moss covered and whatnot.
Yeah, they master the scenery. It gives them. We give that one a 3. So rounding that off, that raid left you with a total of 31 points. Pretty good.
So up next, we conclude with our final raid at the Deepstone Crypts, where we hunt down the last of Aramis's lieutenants, Atrax, as he resurrects Tanix the Abomination on November 21st, 2020 in Destiny 2's Year 4 expansion, Beyond Light. So this one, it's where we're at right now. A lot of you know it, a lot of you have done it. The length is 3, because it is exactly 4 encounters. Environment, we gave it 3 because this is the Deepstone Grip, something we had been hearing about for years, and we get in there, and it's snow-covered. Giant blizzard, we're fighting to get through it. You can
It's
barely see
abandoned.
the enemies, you're dying, and then you get to this giant facility, and it's just dead inside. But then you
Like
get
everything
in
is.
there, and you start, and it's pristine looking, clean,
Yeah,
awesome.
it's well
You
maintained, but
clear that
it's just a
out,
ghost town.
get through security, then you get to Atrax, and you go to space. And
Space, baby.
it was first time, I believe. No, we Leviathan, I guess, but it was
And
awesome. You
count.
clear it all out, and then you're going through. Everything's muffled because in space you really don't have any sound, so there shouldn't be anything. But you got muffle, a nice tune playing, enemies, so your jumping puzzle's not empty. But people still die to shanks. It's weird. Couldn't be me. But it's just, and then you get there, you're fighting Tanix, and it crashes down into Earth. And you get to back where you first entered, and it's the same area but wrecked.
Rough up.
It was a masterpiece with that transition.
Because you've seen places that you've already been to in the Tanix boss fight, but they're just broken down. They're just remains of it, and it's
Wrecked
just
beyond repair. And then you got that fiery red, the whole place is shaking, white all over the place. You kick that one blueberry out of the safe room, they die. And you get in there, your character is wounded, which is like the first time we've seen that animation since base Destiny 2. And you
Yeah.
walk a few steps and you're back to normal, which it kind of hurts the replayability because it's annoying when you do that on your 30th clear and you're moving like a slug there. But it's nice. People still love it to this day.
even with like the environment when you crash the ship down, when you're fighting Tanix, Tanix is like he's just his normal base form, and Tanix hates you with a burning passion because you've killed him how many times here? 3,
I think
4,
they
somewhere around there.
rebuilt him, Siva, this,
Yeah.
Nightmare.
Some other things.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, he's
We have a grudge
just
against
can't
him.
kill him.
Yeah. So he has a burning fiery rage in him, and then when you finally crash down, the last time you saw him before the boss fight, is that he's getting blown up. So when he finally emerges, he somehow miraculously able to attach his body to this shank. and
Where
that
he
he's
found his shank, no clue, because there's no
We
other
don't know.
big shanks in that raid.
Yeah, we don't know where he got it from or how he did it, but the fact that he was
Cough,
willing to
cough,
go
Siva.
desperate measures. Shut up. Goes from desperate measures in order to actually be able to take us down and release his anger. I think that's a really good storytelling without having it sitting through dialogue or through grimoire, or lore books. It's always gonna
On
be
a
grimoire. To be honest.
third-party website.
Yeah. So for this point with the it's the very easy mechanics to teach, or you can just carry through because you only need like really 3 or 4 people. But the best weapons that you can use for the raid, you can literally get before you even touch the raid. It's part of the main storyline to get your hands on with Lament, Cloud Strike. Cloud Strike is a world job. I mean, a random job, but
From it's a pretty
from
easy thing to get, though.
yeah, specific event, specific playlists, but it's still a random chance. But it's not that bad. But like like everything you need you can get beforehand without going in there like a King's Fall. So that's why we give it a 3. The mechanics we give it a 2. It's very easy to learn, but can be an issue when the fire team fails to communicate, especially in more of I forgot the encounter name, but when you take the ship and blow it up, or when you're fighting Tanix, when it's like, oh, by the way, I forgot to mention that operator got disabled, and now you're gonna have to do a little bit of wipe, especially in Tanix. But It's just little things you have to keep in mind, but nothing too crazy. That's why I
Oh
give it
yeah,
two.
it was really a well put together raid, and Atrax, everyone hated day one. I even put out some angry tweets at uh, Bungie because I was really not happy about Atrax on day one because he had so much health and everything was doing so much damage. It really wasn't fun on day one, but after that, it's now one of my favorites. We actually beat the first encounter faster than Swetsicle. So, anyways,
Good for
coming up
you.
now, we got gear. Looking at armor, it's a good looking armor, pretty popular. It's definitely unique. Like it's not themed like most other armors. Like you got the Fallen, the Vex, the Hive looking armor. This thing it felt exo. It really did keep the Deepstone Crypt embedded into it, but it had a decent shader. But that's about it. Nothing like looking at Age of Triumph. Weapons. So the weapons, meta defining. You got the hand cannon, the reconstruction, recombination. This is the first time, I believe, in Destiny 2 we've had a raid exclusive perk, and it has shook the meta to its core.
I mean,
Recombination,
look,
reconstruction has got to be probably one of the most famous roles because it doubles magazine size. I've got that Succession Sniper with the extended mag mixed with the backup mag mod, which gives it 5 in the magazine instead of 3, and you get reconstruction and get it 10. And for an aggressive frame sniper that usually have 3, 10 is pretty good.
yeah. I mean, the Leviathan did have all their raid weapons. It wasn't exclusive, but it had a Vicious Assassin, which it's fine, but let's be honest, you're only using a Vicious Assassin on Salvation Salvo
Now what
or
they need
Rocket
to
Launcher
do is bring that raid back as a, heroic.
dungeon.
Maybe add something, like add one mechanic somewhere, but otherwise make it so that one revive, or you don't get that one revive, and then add
Oh.
adept weapons.
Uh huh.
Add
We'll
a,
talk about this later.
turn them in. Yeah, we need to talk about that later.
Yeah.
But the weapons really, they
It needed it.
they need. We needed
Yeah.
something like
We
that
need
for a long
weapons.
time, and we finally got it.
Yeah. So for hero moments, we give it a 3 because multiple times where one or two people can easily clutch the team, preventing a wipe, like especially in the first encounter where you're able to do the whole to have two people do the whole entire counter. Me and Jackson did it with a random blueberry that we had, and those two were able to get the whole entire raid done. Sure, I was there transferring the buffs and whatnot, but I wasn't really doing anything. Just didn't help our buddy didn't know what left and right was. Uh, yeah. Especially stuff like even like the third counter too, where you got like you're able to take multiple balls at once. Like you're allowed to go back and get multiple balls in case one of your teammate dies or whatnot. It's very it allows you to
So,
like improvise. On
I
the
don't
spot.
know how people can stand strategizing in that encounter. It is chaos to the extreme.
Yeah, it's the only thing you do.
And then you forgot the second encounter. Sometimes you'll have that one person left at bottom because you try to send 5 up top and 1 down below,
Yeah.
and then you don't
He
one
just
phase him,
clutches it.
and so they have to
Yeah.
guess which Atrax to hit, and they hit the right one, and it is just saved.
Oh my god, yeah. So yeah, for like then you have combat. We give it a 3. Very good balance of frantic fighting, but enough where it's like not even unbearable. And like I said before, there's always those transitional areas, and especially with when you go out in space for Deepstone, you're still fighting something. It's like you get the more muffled sound of like even go out to space to try and stop you from like
And then
from
you've
preventing
got the
their goals.
Briggs.
Oh my god, yeah, those are just. Whoo. And then then you got the first encounter, the opening when you have to go through the snowfield. It's just it's a phenomenal balance of combat. That's so we give it a 3.
Up next, we have replayability, which was another 3. This raid's doing good so far. So with different augments, you can replay the raid with a different job, and that gives a new experience for the raid. So you can really just keep going back. Plus, you're going to want to go back for those weapons. that we said, the really good weapons.
And possibly
It
the exotic too.
the exotic, yeah, but that's only really Gambit people. But you just keep going back for those weapons and the experience, and plus the pinnacle drops. But we don't talk about that. But up next we got exotics, which is the Eyes of Tomorrow. Is the really it's we gave it a 2. It had a rough launch with it not doing much damage to majors, and then it got bugged this season, doing even less damage to majors. It was cool, nifty, but it's really mostly a Gambit weapon where you kill an entire team in one shot, which haunts Gambit to this day.
Yeah. Then you got more of the, like you got the bugs and glitches with it. It's not bad. There was a little bugs here and there, but nothing. Like I said, again, nothing really game breaking or stops the raid all entirely. We give it a 2. I mean, it has some here and there, but again, it's manageable. For the enemies, we give it a 3.
Atrax is where all the bugs is.
Yeah. Ugh. Regenerating health way too much than it should be. Good placement with the enemies, with even like having tougher enemies, easy to deal with. With like the overload captain insecurity, that's easy to deal with. You have the servitors around that, even though there's a crap ton of servitors, you're able to easily handle it. And even like in the opening section, we had the brigs and whatnot. It's not respawn restriction, so you can easily afford to make mistakes. It's done really well. And that one we give it a 3. So rounding Deepstone Cryptoff, we
32,
total,
I believe it was.
Yeah, 32 points.
So we're here at the end with these 3 raids graded objectively, unbiased. Let's see where they rank between themselves. In 12th place, with 14 points, we have Crown of Sorrow. Self-explanatory, we hate this raid. A lot of other people do too. It was too heavy on mechanics.
Yeah, and it wasn't even worth it. The gun, the weapons, the gear, there's nothing to really go after.
In 11th place, one of Banana's favorites, King's Fall. Would you like to explain this one? Or shall
Sadly, I'll do it. So, with King's Fall, we looked at it objectively as we possibly can, and I wish this was a lot higher. This is my first raid ever. But when you look at the length of the encounters, they are so long, and I love having a certain challenge to it, but when there's a difference between having a challenging boss fights and unfair boss fights.
But
you got
another thing is you've got to have a reward worth fighting for, and it didn't.
Yeah. So for what? Only thing you get's a gun that only works in that raid and 2 encounters, or you get
a hand cannon
decent
that's
heavy
still
machine
loading.
gun. Yeah, the guy is still reloading. I think he got the new magazine in. I'm not really too sure. I know
I think he just barely got the front of it down.
Alright, yeah. But again, like when you're looking at the encounters themselves, like War Priest and Golgoroth and the Sisters, those are all really good encounters. It's just things like Totems, which you like to stand around and wait for like 10 minutes or so. That one could have been better, but Oryx is, as much as that Oryx fight has so much going for it, with cool mechanics, it's so long, it's such an endurance test that if you mess up once, especially in Heroic, when someone dies, it's over. You have to restart, and the only thing you get out of that is you get a ship that looks kind of funky, but you can easily get a better version in D2. Yeah, the coloring, I never liked the coloring on that raid, but that's different. But it's very rewarding to kill Oryx, but it's
for the first time. But
yeah, for the first time. After a while, it's not worth it. I wish that rate is higher.
So in 10th place with 18 points, Eater of Worlds. So that one, it's a raid layer, so it didn't have much going for us to begin with. It had 2 weapons, crappy armor, no exotics. It was doomed to begin with.
Going into 9th place with 20 points, another very controversial take, clearly. Last Wish. Similar things to King's Fall, and almost the exact opposite of Eater Worlds. It's too long. There really is no point in doing it, and sure,
most
you have a
of the
couple
time
decent
you
weapons.
skip the entire thing with the wish wall.
when Bungie literally puts in a whole thing for to skip the encounters, sure it's there for lore reasons and whatnot, but it's just what's the point? Like you have all these different encounters that I think are actually really cool. I like the idea of Shuri being like a constant frantic
Vault
fight.
is my go-to.
Vault,
I was a
yeah,
raider to the extreme. I loved
Vault is
that,
fun.
but it
No one does
doesn't
it.
hold up.
Yeah, everyone wants to do Riven, but no one even does Riven. They do the cheese, and it's just what's the point? And another thing I have a really big issue with: when you kill Riven, you don't get any rewards from it. You have to do Queen's Walk in order to get the rewards. And the 1K, I mean, this is more of a personal opinion. I still have not gotten that, and I've done it plenty of times, and I still have not gotten that gun.
And then you got those people who stock up the coins and do a video where they turn in 15 coins and get 15 1Ks. Something's up there. All right. In 8th place, we have actually one of, I'd say my 5th or 6th favorite raid, Spire of Stars with 22 points. Once again, a raid layer. It's surprising it did better than some of the other raids considering that, but it did have the Sleeper Catalyst and this emote that we're both using that really gave it a heads up over some other things. And that was probably its biggest advantage. It was really cool, and I liked the final boss fight, but it was a bit difficult for newer people. But it ended up in 8th place.
And this is another thing, though. It's like a lot of people say a lot of these raids are really easy, especially like things like Crota, half the encounters in Baltic Glass, Leviathan. Spire of Stars actually pulls a difficult challenge. The last time I did Spire was for Moments of Triumph back in last year. Even then, being light level, I don't remember what the max was then,
Yeah.
close to 900,000, somewhere around there. Even being like that, it was still a difficult challenge to actually work with, and I'm surprised at how well it held up, like 2 years after its release. But going into 7th place with 24 points, Leviathan. And for this one, similar to Spire Stars, where it had the amazing design of, not really like more of a unique design. It was being the first Destiny 2 raid with the whole rotating order, and the story behind it is that you're there for Callus's entertainment, and the fact that it was almost like a game show, as most people describe it as. I thought it was a really cool idea that as the weekly encounters would change, making
Underbelly
it kind of,
chests, all the hidden
underbelly
secrets.
chest, the secrets, the learning the map, learning the way around, and then being the opportunity of being the that one guy in the LFG group that just knows everything. But and it's also being a very easy raid for beginners to start off on, but still being rewarding at the end.
So we're at number 6 right now. Right here, we got past all the not as good raids. We're here in the best of the raids. They're really competing hard for this number 1 spot. So number 6, fighting hard. We got Vault of Glass, the classic. It's quite impressive it made it this far compared to something like King's Fall, which is more iconic for the scenes. This one is actually more iconic for the loot. And it's traditional. So it made it and fought its way, and it landed right here, number 6.
Yeah. With number 5th, which I'm surprised how well this one held up too, was with 28 points, Crota's End. This one, again, it was a very scenery-based raid, very easy to learn, and sure, it wasn't, like, at the time, it wasn't really the best well-received, but when you look at it now, I believe it kind of made the foundation of what dungeons we have today, and some of the dungeons are, like, the best at things that we have, like, Bungie really ever made, especially things with, Prophecy and Pit of Heresy, personally. That's one of my favorites. I love the fact of what they did to that. But it also had really good loot, especially Black Hammer was meta defining as well. The year 1 meta was Fatebringer, Black Hammer, Galahorn. So it definitely deserves this high of a place because of that.
Alright, and here in number 4th place we have the Garden of Salvation, probably carried by its unique scenery, returning supplicants and other well-placed enemies, and the 3-point exotic divinity. This one was carried quite well and ended up quite well, and I believe it had a rough of a start because it was Gambit, and people were tired of Gambit at this point, but I believe it is...
People are still tired of Gambit.
People are liking this raid a bit more, but it is still, unfortunately, you can't get the pinnacles from it, so you see less people running it, but Divinity is still holding the meta on its back.
Yeah, it's kind of like wine. It ages with it's much better when it aged.
Yeah, aged well with wine.
Yeah. In third place with 32 points, getting really close up to the max at 36, we have Deepstone Crypt. This one, like I said, it's a lot of more, like, raids have always been really good with sceneries, and this one really held up with it, with more of the fact that even though if you weren't really into the Destiny lore of, like, reading the Grimlord or the Lord cards, but you knew what the Deepstone Crypt was. You knew what was going on. Because, I mean, the Ace of Spades mission back in Forsaken, it mentioned that stuff going on, and it kind of has been building up years of, like, what is going on with this place? What is the secret that we don't know? We always knew Clovis was a bit shady, but this really showed what was going on, and the design of the bosses and the storyline behind it, I feel like it really helped it out. And then not to even mention the meta-defining weapons that it has with the amazing perk of Reconstruction, which is, honestly, I think that's what Cocoon was supposed to be back in King's Fall.
Another thing we forgot to mention is a relatively overseen detail. The statue right before Atrax is not a statue. It moves. It's breathes. It breathes. You can hear its rasping breath. Its chest rises. Its cloak drifts. It is not a statue. That is something.
The one in Guard Salvation, though, that one's a statue.
That one's a statue, yeah.
Yeah.
So up here, fighting for second place with 33 points, just one above Deepstone Crypt, we got the Wrath of the Machine. Classic, famous, awesome well-done encounters, Outbreak Prime, awesome quest, community being brought together over something like that. And it just, the armor was a bit lower. If the armor did better, I believe this one would have taken the cake. However, it didn't. And that will bring us off at number 1. Banana, you take it.
In first place with 34 points, 2 points behind the maximum amount, Scourge of the Past. And this one not only just being one of our favorite raids, and we did take our opinion out of it, but when you look at it, it gives you amazing environments. You're going back to the last city, the place that we lost in D1, and didn't really get to think about or even mention, see, out of, like, what, maybe 4 missions max in the D2 campaign, which is honestly pretty forgettable. Then the only time I ever got to see it then was 0 Hour, but this was before that ever happened. So you have to go back to the last city and see new parts of it. I just got disconnected to Orbit, but it's fine.
That happened to me early on. But then you got Anarchy here. And Anarchy still holding the meta with Divinity. And we come to our conclusion with these controversial positions for these raids, even though they are justified. What do we learn from this? First, Fallen raids are objectively the best. Come on. I knew this from the start. They're more fun. Like, the Hive raids are a bit mechanic heavy. The Vex raids are, well, they're alright. They're just right there in the middle. Taken raids are long. And Cabal raids are repetitive. But Fallen, it's unique and it's funny every single time. And it's funny that it's so good. Second, mechanics in raids doesn't need to be complicated to be good. Like, look at Crota's End. The mechanic was a sword you hit the boss with, it's over. But it was different, and you could sword fly and all this stuff. It was fun. It was simple. It was good. And then you got that the Age of Triumph, where you get those 5 swords to spawn and you just whack them all. It was hilarious.
People liked it so much that they even brought it back in Pit of Heresy.
Oh, Pit of Heresy was fun.
Yeah. So it's even though it's simple, I mean, the mechanic already existed before Crota was even announced. It was in a mission back in D1's base campaign, but it's just, like I said, it doesn't need to be complicated. Sure, some of the newer mechanics are really fun, like the Deepstone Crypt's augments, but stuff like the Blessing in Crown of Sorrow, it's cool design, but it's not worth it.
Yeah, they don't need to be a lot of mechanics for it to be good mechanics. Alright. The mechanics need to be well thought out and transfer well between encounters, where you got something like Leviathan, it's a new thing every time. It kind of holds it back a little. But if you keep that consistency, like Wrath of the Machine, Crota's End, stuff like that, Garden of Salvation, Scourge of the Past with the map and all that,
Yeah.
consistency is key a lot of the times, and you learn basics in the beginning and work your way up to the final boss, being a test of your understanding of the mechanic. And up as our final conclusion, little treat we got, we have the a quick ranking of the weapons, just as something
Of
fun.
the raid weapons.
The raid weapons, yes.
The raid exotic weapons, sorry. Let's clear that up.
Spire, Stars, Eater, Worlds, they don't have one. So, starting up at number 10, we have the Vex Mythoclast. It's just a solar auto rifle where it died off in the end of Destiny 2. Well, Destiny 1. It's at this point where it's at, it got nerfed pretty bad, so it's pretty much just a solar auto rifle with Rampage Z moment. But it
was a cool gun when it was released, but when you look at it from today, you have a lot better different options.
Number 9, we have Legend of Acreus. It's a tragedy that this happened, but it has been left in the dust. Number 8 is Touch of Malice, only good in the raid. 7, Necrochasm, funny ad clear.
Yeah.
Troll in the Crucible.
Yeah, number 6, Terraba. It's, again, once it perks actually procs, it's a decent weapon, but it could have used that extra boost.
I'd rather have my messenger.
Yeah. Number 5 and number 5th place, we have. Wait a minute.
Yep.
Number 4, actually. Yeah, number 4. Because hang on.
You missed 5.
Number 5th. Sorry, it's on a separate page. Eyes of Tomorrow. Like I said, it's a cool idea of a tracking rocket launcher. Personally, I have a lot of beef with it because I had to do a lot of Gambit recently. But like I said, it's only good in Gambit. I mean, you can use it in PvP, but you're not getting heavy all that much.
So something we probably should have stated at the beginning, when we get 6, 7, 6, 5, 4, those positions does not in any way mean they're bad, except for Terraba. It just reflects that the competition is really fierce, and sometimes they just get pushed down a little. So if your favorite raid was 6, 7, 8 or something like that, around 6 or 7, I believe. Hold on, let's around those is where it's around 7 and under. They're really fighting hard. If it's past 7, it really wasn't that good. But so just know, if your favorite raid was 7 and up, in the 7 and up, then it was actually a pretty good raid.
If it's King's Fall, we're sorry.
Yeah, we're sorry. Actually,
we're sorry that we're not sorry.
He's sorry.
Yeah, we're not sorry.
I'm not. Outbreak Prime is at number 4. Number 3 is the 1,000 Voices.
Number 2, Divinity, and number 1, Anarchy. Let's be honest, you should have seen this coming.
Oh yeah, with those two? Mile away. Alright guys, and that wraps up our very first episode of the Filibuster of the 9. We'll try to do this every Saturday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So, this first episode, we went a little long.
This is a very big project. It was
like 2.5 hours. We've been working on this all week, along with his homework, but
yay, graduation.
Next week, I believe we'll be taking over the topic of rating the Destiny subclasses and adding them up to see which class is objectively the best for a new player. So it lets you know the flexibility of each class. Spoiler, Bubble's going to win.
D2 Bubble, by the way.
D2 Bubble, clear. Yes. We're not rating Destiny 1 next week because it's not trees. You don't have the trees. You've got individual perks you select, and that really complicates things. But we'd like to thank you all for coming to our very first live stream of the Filibuster of the 9, and we will all see you next week. Thank you for watching. And you can find us at our next episode. Won't be on this main channel. It'll actually be on the House of the 9 YouTube channel. House of the capital I, capital X, not, the numeric Roman numeral for 9. And we will start trying to do regular on there. All right. Have a nice night. We're still live, so